Baylor.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Yes. I'm glad you did that because I just realized I didn't do mic checks.
Big 12 today on Big 12 Radio doing Big 12 things.
Check, check, check. Check a check a check. Check a check a check a check a check.
Good.
Check check.
Thank you, folks.
Do your thing, girl. Slay, girl.
Anthony says he hears you fine. Thank y'all for checking because I did not. Oh, let me. Hey, Anthony, just for a heads up, Norm Roberts is going to be over the phone. Just as a heads up. One minute. Seconds. And James, as they bring you the best of what's happening in the Big 12. With your Big 12 Sports Update, I'm Tim Turner.
Stay connected with your Big 12 Sports Update. This is the Big 12. This is a different league.
I'm Commissioner Yormark, and you're listening to Big 12 Radio on TuneIn. Love the fact that TuneIn's part of our family. We're going to grow together and do some amazing things, so thank you.
Big 12. 8A to 11A Eastern Time. Your home for all things Big 12.
Big 12 today here on Big 12 Radio. Welcome into a Takeaway Tuesday edition. This is the Big 12 Conference. This is a different league. You're listening to us exclusively on TuneIn, watching us on Big 12 Studios. This man is Ari Timken. I'm James Westling. Anthony Smith behind the scenes on the video side. T-Chains, Taman Turner on the audio side. Big 12 has 3 new men's basketball coaches. We'll break down the coaching carousel here in about 15. Also, Scott Springer, the Cincinnati Bearcats beat writer for the Cincinnati Enquirers, going to join us around 7:45 Central Time to talk about one of those hires. And then we'll have Michelle Gardner to talk about the other hire, the Arizona State beat writer for the Arizona Republic. She was up in KC at the Big 12 tournament. We're going to play a little Valor Void today. Excited about that. And then love that we've got Anthony Christensen, the Arkansas athletic reporter for WholeHogSports.com. That's a mouthful. WholeHogSports.com to preview the Arkansas-Arizona game. We'll get the opponent angle and deep dive the Arkansas Razorbacks. Are those new Jays?
No.
I like them.
Thank you.
Those are clean.
Thank you.
Do you clean your sneakers?
Yes. But these have not been cleaned.
They look pretty clean to me.
Thank you.
Where do you put all your shoes?
My closet.
Like just on the floor? You have like a Patrick Mahomes sneaker collection closet?
Pretty much, yes. Me and Patrick Mahomes, basically the same exact setup.
Walls of sneakers, similar paychecks.
Yeah. I mean, similar everything. Nothing is different about the two of us.
The hair. You're both lefties, right?
Yeah. Like I said,
ambidextrous.
everything's the same with both of us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do you use a special like sneaker cleaning solution?
No.
Just good old-fashioned soap and water.
Most of the shoes that I'll spend time washing are white shoes or have white in them, and I use a magic eraser.
I've seen that. That's a life hack.
Life hack. Magic erase your white shoes.
Okay. That's like the kind of spongy-looking erasers, right?
Yeah. Sure.
Mr. Clean.
Yeah, you got it.
Okay. Got the right ones. I was buying like really fancy sneaker like solutions on Amazon, and then I realized, okay, there's a billion things just lying around the house that'll do the same job or better.
Yeah, and then you look at like the ingredients. It's like, oh, that's mostly water and alcohol. You know, like isopropanol. Like, oh, it's a weird
Little hydrogen peroxide. We're good
I
to go.
cannot tell you how many times I was targeted for cleaning supplies for my shoes via IG. And at first it was like the send us your old Jordans and we'll completely redo them. It's So I was like, oh, interesting. I've got some old ones I haven't worn in a long time, and they're a little shabby. So I was like, oh, let's see, And then you send them pictures and stuff, and like, oh, this is great. These are going to turn out great. That's $375. You're like, huh? You could buy new Jordans for that price. like maybe a few pairs. So then once that was declined, IG went with the second strategy, which was let's just sell them the cleaners. Right? Now we know he's looking to get his Jordans cleaned. Let's just sell them the cleaners. And then I looked, and it's like, oh, no, yeah, water and...
So you got duped twice.
But I didn't.
But you didn't.
Right. I got sold things twice, but I didn't buy twice.
All right, so custom Jordans, where do those come from? Custom J's.
You see, when a mommy Jordan and a daddy Jordan love each other very much, James.
I've got some Nike Dunks. I don't own a pair of Jordans. I'm very jealous. I want one so bad. I'm rocking the all-white Nike Kill Shots today.
Yeah, no, you are the king of every other Nike shoe beyond Jordan.
Exactly. Air Max, all day.
The truth of the matter, though, is if you tried to buy Jordans, they wouldn't let you.
Why?
You just don't have it.
Okay, I don't have the it factor.
You don't have the it factor.
That's the problem. I'm going to Hibbett Sports, and I'm walking in wearing this zipped-up polo, and they're like, this guy can't possibly be in here for Jordans.
The guy in the mint polo? No, please. He needs the kill shots.
But custom Jordans, are these people just, making these from home?
Yeah.
Essentially, is that what it is?
Yeah. I mean, I think I've seen, I know somebody that's an artist that does Air Force Ones, and so he'll buy just, or the kill shots you're wearing, completely white, all white on white on white Air Force Ones, and then...
They're just recoloring them.
Yeah.
Building them from scratch.
No. That they do in China.
Same thing for Jordans?
Yeah.
Just buying all white Jordans and customizing them that way?
I'm assuming.
Okay.
You're asking me I
You're
know
the Jordan
that.
King.
I mean, I dabble.
What is what's the bar for customized Jordans? If I want to buy a pair of customized J's, and you'll see where this is headed, what is too much to spend?
Probably any amount.
Any amount. What do you like?
I mean, you're not Travis Scott. What are you buying custom Jordans for?
Okay, well, so
do you know who Travis Scott is?
Yes, I know who Travis Scott is.
Do you know the Travis Scotts?
Leger's rocking Travis Scotts all the time. They look awesome. The backward swoosh, I never thought it'd look so cool, but every time I see them, I'm so jealous.
Yeah, those are expensive. Those are pricey.
I bought my wife some custom Jordans when we first started dating. Wanted to impress her, of course.
And that's very impressive.
Deep pockets, this guy. So we were shopping, walked into a boutique sneakerhead store in Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Oh, yeah.
These sick Jordans, and they were like a light kind of peachish pink color. They were pretty. I mean, they were sweet.
I didn't know they were custom.
Well, because you can't get them anywhere else.
Got it. Okay.
They had a custom vibe to them.
Got it.
And this guy was basically they didn't have a price on them. He just threw out a dollar amount, and I was like, yeah, that sounds good. I had no idea what I was doing. Again, I was just trying. I spent $300 on these.
The Art of the Deal by Jays Westlake.
I spent $300.
Whatever they offer, accept it.
I didn't know what was happening. I was like, wait, I'm looking at the heel. I'm looking at the tongue. Where's the price on these? $300. Sold, fella. I got a hottie I'm trying to bag. Did you say $300? Okay, yeah. Just get my cash out.
It's actually, no, sorry, $550.
But now, in hindsight, I feel like I overpaid.
Yeah.
Significantly.
Well, I mean,
overpaid.
you took the first offer. You never take the first offer, James.
I didn't even know that was a thing. You could negotiate on sneakers? I thought
James was I'm used to walking in stores and paying what they tell me to pay.
I thought I was walking into finish line. All right, I'm like, where's the price? Oh, those are... So, anyways, she's worn them one time. Once.
And she knows how much they cost.
Yes. She's worn them one time.
So you did it extremely impressively.
Very much.
You did the whole, how much of these, please, there's no amount of money that...
And I still don't think about it to this day. It doesn't bother me at all. So she's even tried to sell them, on Poshmark, other places. No hits. No takers. No takers. So we're stuck with these shoes that are apparently very uncomfortable. She doesn't like them.
Did she say she liked them?
Yeah, at the time, she wore them all day. All day that first day. Wore them all day. Wore them all day the second day. Got back to Dallas. Have not seen them since. Cleaning out the closets, we found the $300 Jordans. It's like, why aren't you wearing these?
Are they ones?
Get
Are they?
these bad boys on your feet?
Do they look like this?
Yeah, they do.
They're the ones. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you way overpaid.
Yeah, they're those.
Yeah, you way.
And they're
overpaid.
pretty sweet, don't get me wrong. But now, like I said, they're unsellable.
I mean, did you try to sell them for like $300?
I don't know. I think she
Put them on Facebook Marketplace for $50. See what happens.
I think she did that. $50. Come on, I'd rather just have them sit in the closet. It's just a slap in the face.
It is funny how like sometimes people completely overvalue their things,
Yeah.
and maybe not sometimes, like all of the time. You go to Facebook Marketplace and you will see a glutton of people that have overvalued the things they own by the amount of money they put them on Facebook Marketplace for. And then my favorite part is the whole like basically new, bought it for $1,000. Now I've got it for $850. It's like, you're not gonna get that. Nobody cares that it's almost new and that you paid how much you paid for it.
Right.
What's the only value is what it's worth today.
Yeah.
Which is not $150 less than what you paid for it. Like, people are crazy.
We live in a society where there's just way too much stuff. Everybody just has way too much stuff.
Well, that's a given.
Big problem.
Well,
So
I
it's
mean,
hard to sell stuff
have you been
because
on
everybody
Instagram
else
lately?
has way too much stuff.
Have you been on Instagram lately?
We've got too much stuff. We better sell some stuff. But everybody else also has too much stuff and doesn't need more stuff. So they don't want to pay more than $10 for that summer dress that's been hanging in our closet for 4 years.
And yet Amazon is constantly delivering more stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Instagram is cha-ching, 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 cha-ching.
Totally.
Yeah. More stuff we don't need.
Yeah.
I'm the king of that.
You're a shopper.
Oh. It's bad.
Taman, are you the shopper in your house?
No, I am not. That is my wife.
Yeah, I'm the unique one here because my wife does not shop.
But you are a bargain hunter, I will say. You sent me what was like these backdoor links. I'm like, this doesn't even look. Is this legit? Like,
I shop
this dark
once a
web
year.
shopping. Like, what's going on here?
It is.
Deals.com.
You need a VPN to get in there? It's great.
But got some pants for $8. So thank you.
I shop on Black Friday weekend, and that's it.
Interesting.
That's my shopping for the year.
Okay.
I guess that's Thanksgiving weekend. I said Black Friday weekend.
Yeah, I mean that's
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
it, right? I mean, I won't even buy stuff that we actually need. It's a problem sometimes. All right, so I get on social last night.
You said this was going somewhere with the Jordans. Where was it going?
That was it. That was the story that I spent $300 on the Jordan. That's the punchline.
Got it. Cool.
So I get on social last night and I see Morgantown is trending. And I'm like, Morgantown? What do we got going on there? And then I remember West Virginia's got their home women's basketball game against Kentucky. They filled that place. Hosting an NCAA tournament game in the first round for the first time in 34 years. And today I learned that it's Hope Coliseum. It's no longer just WVU Coliseum.
Right.
That deal got locked in 2025 that I missed. Over 13,500 fans saw the Mountaineers blow out Miami, Ohio, and then last night West Virginia loses a thriller to Kentucky, 75-74 in round 2. On the women's side, we've got TCU moving on. TCU trying to get to back-to-back Elite Eights. They're in the Sweet 16 for the second year in a row for the first time in program history. And we missed that Olivia Miles just went bananas in their overtime win over the weekend. She had TCU's first 13 points in the third quarter to push the game into overtime. TCU eventually won, but now they get to play a 10 seed in Virginia in the Sweet 16. They would have South Carolina waiting for them in the Elite Eight, but TCU probably has the easiest path among the teams that are seeded 1 through 3 in the round of 16. But just your thoughts on those two matchups.
Yeah, so, I mean, Oklahoma State actually didn't get completely and utterly destroyed last night as well. Late last night, UCLA won 87-68. And when you consider what UConn did on, was it Sunday or Saturday?
Yeah, they beat Syracuse 98-45. Beat them by 53 points.
Well,
so you're right. A 20-point loss in women's.
Especially because UConn and UCLA are by far the two best teams. So when you see what UCLA did to Syracuse, you're like, oh, what are they, what UConn did to Syracuse, what's UCLA going to do to Oklahoma State? And Oklahoma State kept it close. I mean, they were down 21-6 after the first quarter. That was the hole they dug. but they pretty much kept it even every other quarter after that. In fact, they outscored UCLA in the third quarter, and we're only outscored. Basically, we're only outscored by 3 points in second, third, and fourth quarter. It was the 21-6 first quarter though that did them in. And then West Virginia, they were down 12 yesterday afternoon to Kentucky heading into the fourth quarter. And then they got the lead down 74-73, and Gina Cook got a great look. She crossed over and then at the elbow had a really good look at a game winner, but it rimmed out, and Kentucky wins. Kentucky ended up inbounding the ball and then turning it over again, but only 0.2 seconds left on the clock, and there was not enough time for West Virginia for a last-second heave. West Virginia was looking for its first Sweet 16 appearance since 1992, so disappointing loss for WVU. TCU once again, the only women's basketball team in the Big 12 that moves on into the second weekend. This is the second year in a row where the Big 12 was completely eliminated except for TCU in the first weekend. Last year, TCU made it to the Elite Eight before losing to Texas. We'll see if they can win against Virginia, and then maybe get a upset win over South Carolina.
And just one more game to kind of put the Oklahoma State loss into perspective and how much they battled against UCLA. So South Carolina played 9-seed USC. USC's got this hotshot freshman that's averaging like 22 a game. South Carolina beat them by 40, 101-61. So Oklahoma State really did hang in there tough. The other thing I wanted to ask you about is on the men's side. When you think about, CBS had an article and it had March Madness winners and losers. And I was thinking, who are the winners and losers in the Big 12 on the men's side? Because the Big 12 has 3 teams left, third most among the power conferences, behind the Big 10 and the SEC. So winners and losers from the Big 12 and how this kind of March Madness has transpired. The number one winner for me is just Houston's dominance, not just in the Big 12, but in the tournament. They have been to 7 straight Sweet 16s. Like, Kelvin Sampson has built a program that also doesn't lose in the tournament. And now they get to play less than 3 miles from campus in their Sweet 16 and Elite 8 games against not a 1 seed in Florida who gets bounced by Iowa. I just think Houston, who's the winningest program since 2017 in the nation, they surpassed Gonzaga during that stretch this year. Just their consistency, like always being there, is a major win.
Yeah, well, and they've also been a dominant force the first 2 rounds, not just getting to 7 consecutive Sweet 16s, but they are just the 4th team in NCAA tournament history and just the first team since North Carolina in 2008 to win its first 2 March Madness games by 30 points.
Wow. Since 2008?
Yeah.
Dang.
So, yeah, they've completely dominated. And, an A&M team that plays buckyball that I think would be a pretty good precursor for Houston in playing Illinois. Illinois is the number 1 offense in college basketball. It's a better offense, obviously, than A&M is. And there's some potential issues there as we preview that game at some point. But I do think there was a good precursor for Houston to get them ready for Illinois after playing buckyball in Texas A&M.
You mentioned North Carolina. I just saw this morning. The now odds-on favorite to land the North Carolina job. Have you seen who it is?
No.
Todd Golden has skyrocketed. He's like plus 250. The next guy's like plus 700. And TJ Alzelberger, this is great news for the Big 12 and Iowa State fans. He's now like 12th on the list. I mean, I saw a couple of days ago, he was the odds-on favorite. They thought North Carolina was going to make a push for him. But it looks like Todd Golden is the odds-on favorite now.
Would you leave Florida and go to UNC?
Yes.
Yeah. Even with the resources that Florida would have relative to the ACC school?
Yes. I would. I'm not a huge fan of Florida. Like Gainesville. I've called 3 games there. It doesn't do it for me. It's a small college town. It's not anywhere like close to the beach, close to the coast. It's kind of inland. Their facilities, which this says a lot about how impressive Todd Golden's time at Florida has been. It's harder to win there than people think. Like, their basketball facilities are not up to par with Kansas, North Carolina, Arizona, those type of programs. So for me, yeah, it would be a no-brainer.
Yeah, and they've won as many titles as those programs have over the last few decades.
Like even what Billy Donovan was doing back in 06, 07. frankly, after visiting like the coastal cities of Florida, it's a miracle that Florida's as competitive as they are in the SEC. All right, Big 12 losers, like one overarching theme that came to mind for me was just the Big 12. I know we only have 3 teams left, but I think a lot of that stems from just how unfortunate the league was this year. To me, this is the year of injuries. The Peterson situation, the cramps, JT Toppin tearing his ACL, Richie Saunders tearing his ACL, Joshua Jefferson rolling his ankle early in the Kentucky game, and they still go on to win by 20 points. Like, if you had told us that coming into the season, those are 4 guys that are probably on your first team all Big 12 preseason team, and they all end up out for the year, and Jefferson to be determined.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great point. And, when we look at the raw, data, and that's what a lot of people are pointing to in terms of conferences and records in this tournament. The Big Ten has been a dominant force. They've got 6 teams out of the 16 that are left and have a really sterling record. I would think you'd have to account for the injuries to the Big 12 as a reason for it. I mean, Texas Tech and BYU in particular. I also think that even in losing, there's probably some winners. A.J. DeBonsa, to me, is a big-time winner out of this tournament for what he did at the end of the season, for what he did in carrying BYU as far as he could carry them. I'm not sure that he's going to be number 1 overall in the upcoming draft. He certainly could be, but if he does, and he is, I think his stretch at the end of this year without Saunders would be the reason for it, and his scoring. So, yeah, I mean, I think even despite that, you can make a case that what Johnny Dawkins did this year, regardless of a loss to UCLA, was extremely impressive for a team that was really bad the last couple of years in the Big 12.
Yeah. Yeah, great point. Who will be next year's UCF? We will start to break that down here in the next couple of weeks as we do our Big 12 men's basketball report cards. We've got Scott Springer, the Cincinnati Bearcats beat writer for the Cincinnati Enquirer, set to join us in about 20 minutes because Cincinnati reportedly has a new basketball coach. 3 new hires for the Big 12 next season. The Big 12 men's basketball coaching carousel is in full swing. We'll tell you about all 3 after the timeout. This is Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio, brought to you, the full-time fan, by Modelo here on TuneIn and Big 12 Studios.
The focus needs to be on the players and on their great play on the court, so I support the Big 12's decision 100%.
Underway, and it is Arizona with the first possession. This Iowa State team 27-6 on the season, 12-6 in league play. They finished in a 3-way tie for third, but because the tiebreakers fell down to the 5 seed.
Is what makes him so incredibly valuable, and that's one of the biggest reasons he's Big 12 Player of the Year.
2-man game, Lipsy and Buchanan. Rebound, Lipsy. Momcilovic for 3. And they are extremely talented, and this guy is one of the reasons why. Tobe Awaka came up with a rebound, couldn't finish, got it back again. And Del Orso knocks down his second 3 of the night. He averages almost 3 assists per game. Deflected by Del Orso. He's got it back. A little Euro step, and it rolls in for him. What a sequence, Jay, here in the closing seconds of the first half.
2 huge threes in transition by Momcilovic.
He's going to try one more. Got it! Oh!
Tobe Awaka down on the baseline with Krivas. They can duck in hard.
Bradley can't shake Torrey. Forces it up and hits. Finds Buchanan. 10 to shoot. Buchanan looking for somebody to give it to. Finds Lipsy. 5 to shoot. Tie game!
Remember, it's not just the first shot. It's the offensive rebound.
Bradley trying to do it himself. He does! He hit it!
Back here on Big 12 today on Big 12 Radio, brought to you, the full-time fan, by Modelo. Scott Springer. Ari's dancing. It's very distracting. You got moves, dude. You got moves. I'm getting a lot of, like, dance tutorial, like, this is how to do this move videos on my Instagram feed. Now I know why. It can sense your dance moves. My phone's right here. It's watching you. It's watching.
It doesn't need to teach me any dance moves. I teach Instagram the dance moves. Instagram doesn't teach me. I teach Instagram.
That's it. It's quite depressing because they make it look so easy. I'm like, I would have to watch this video 1,000 times. I like your hat.
Have you seen this hat?
Yeah, I've seen the hat. We talked about it yesterday. It's a good looking hat.
Yeah.
I'm actually shocked you're not wearing it today.
Well, I mean, I don't want to.
I see you.
Sully the hat.
Yeah. Well,
you know?
got a little product in there today.
No, I just don't want to sully the hat. You know, this hat speaks for itself.
Tell us about the hat.
Well, it's the men's Big 12 championship hat with the Arizona logo on the side. You could buy it through New Era, and it's freaking amazing.
It's a good looking hat.
It's going to stay up here with us until Arizona wins the national championship.
Ooh, I like that.
And then we'll get an Arizona national championship hat. We'll have them together, and we'll say, here's your 2 championship hats, Arizona fans. Go get them.
That's it. I like Zona. I like their chances. All right, 3 new coaches in the Big 12 on the men's side. We've touched.
How you've just tossed Casey Alexander in there as if it isn't old news.
Yeah, okay. We haven't spent a lot of time on Casey Alexander, but this segment is more geared towards the other 2 guys. All right, Jared Calhoun, who Kansas State went after, made a big-time push for him. And when he turned down K-State, I thought, I bet he's leaving for Cincinnati, because he's a Bob Huggins guy. He was a student assistant under Bob Huggins during the 03-04 seasons, and then he was with Huggins at West Virginia for about 6 years. Then he went to be a head coach at Fairmont State, which is a Division II school in West Virginia that Bob Huggins actually coached at early on during his tenure. Like, his path, it's Bob Huggins 2.0. He's 44. He's an Ohio native, played at Cleveland State, has done nothing but 1 games at Utah State, and he was the head coach at Youngstown State from 2017 to 2024, won 5 straight, or had 5 consecutive winning seasons at Youngstown State, and then he was only at Utah State for 2 years, but he went 55-15. Feels like this is a slam dunk hire for a guy that really wanted the job. This is his dream job.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't think it says anything about K-State beyond the fact that this was, to your point, his dream job. Calhoun went to Cleveland State, played for Raleigh Massimino, and then ended up going to Cincinnati, where, as you mentioned, as a student, he was a grad assistant for Bob Huggins, worked with Mick Cronin and Andy Kennedy on Bob Huggins' staff, and coached Joe Mazzulla, the Boston Celtics head coach, who still is one of his closest friends, and they're very similar in their coaching styles and coaching philosophies. And Mazzulla speaks, very highly of Calhoun, and Calhoun speaks very highly of Mazzulla. So that's a pretty cool deal there. Also, this quote that he had from about Raleigh Massimino, he said, "Raleigh was incredible at having the players spend a ton of time around his wife and children. He created an unbelievable family atmosphere. He also gave his assistants great ownership of the program." Sounds a lot like Kelvin Sampson. When you describe what makes Kelvin Sampson different, I think it's the familial, the come to my house, the coach, the wife, the kids, they're all around, the grandkids, and then empowering players, empowering assistants to rise above their ranks and take ownership of the program. He won 124-38 in 5 years at Ferris State, including a run to the Division II national championship game. He won 20 or more games every year. Youngstown State, think about Youngstown State basketball. That's basically hasn't existed. They won the 2023 Horizon League regular season and went to the first ever NIT appearance for the school with a 118-106 record. Again, that's a program that doesn't win a ton. And then you mentioned 55-15 in 2 seasons at Utah State. They were top 25. They've been top 25 in Ken Palm offense the last 2 years. They were 26th in Ken Palm offense in 26th and 20th in 25. They were 44th in defense in Ken Palm defense this year after being 150th in 2025. So he fixed that pretty substantially. So I'd say this is as good of a hire as it gets.
Yeah, because he's super innovative offensively, but then he brings those Bob Huggins principles which his teams were known for their defense, rebounding, physicality. The only thing that gives me any hesitation, it's a slam dunk hire. Like, it's an A grade hire.
But
everybody who's been the coach at Utah State has won there. So it's not like he had to rebuild or turn around a program. I mean, he took over a team that was 28-7 the year before under Danny Sprinkle. Ryan Odom was at Utah State before that. He's now the head coach at Virginia. Craig Smith was the coach before Odom. He was the head coach at Utah prior to last season. So, like, you look at the list of coaches, Utah State is just a factory for churning out high-level coaches that move up. And some of them have had a ton of success. Others have kind of fizzled out. So Utah State, I think, was a great place for Calhoun to land his first high-level Division I job to get him to this benchmark at Cincinnati. But, like, the Cincinnati offense next year is going to be a complete makeover. They will be very more BYU, more spacing-oriented.
Yeah, fast-paced, get out in transition, and plus the Bob Huggins mantra of, defend every blade of grass, so to speak, right? Defend every inch of floor. Ball pressure, aggressive defense. I think we're going to see a ton of that from Cincinnati.
All right, the other, and this was big-time hire for Arizona State. They actually land Randy Bennett, leaving St. Mary's after 25 seasons. He's been there forever. Like, what did he do before St. Mary's doesn't really matter because the guy's been there 2.5 decades. Been the head coach at St. Mary's since 2001. He's the program's all-time wins leader. They've been to 19 postseason appearances, including 12 NCAA tournaments, 18 straight postseasons. The guy's won 589 games in his career, 7-time West Coast Conference Coach of the Year. This is A+ for Arizona State to get a legend to leave the program where he's going to have a statue to be the head coach at Arizona State.
Yeah, 589 and 228 in his career at St. Mary's. That's a 721 winning percentage, including 7 regular season West Coast Conference championships, including the last 4 consecutive years, and 4 conference tournament championships as well. And this is obviously in the same conference as Gonzaga, so it's not like it's easy to run away with the West Coast Conference. He's from Mesa, Arizona, so he's from the area, which I think made it easier for him to take this job. And he also played for his dad, Tom Bennett, during Tom's 2-decade run coaching at Mesa Community College. So very well-known name in the Valley due to their time in Mesa. And, it's interesting. This is sort of from a schematic standpoint, the complete opposite of Cincinnati. This is a slow pace, grind you down offense. They run a variation of the Princeton offense, but they're consistently ranking in the 200s to 300s in pace every year. And then they play a pack line defense. It's a man-to-man in which 4 defenders typically remain inside the 3-point line unless they're contesting a ball screen. It's designed to challenge interior passing lanes and make high percentage shots difficult to come by. They've ranked top 20th in defense each of the past 6 seasons St. Mary's has, including as high as 8th nationally in 24-25. They ranked 298th in tempo this year. So you're going to get a team that is going to be good offensively and defensively, play a very slow pace. I do wonder if he'll adjust that in the Big 12 because it feels like it works more in the West Coast Conference than it will. The one thing I'll say about Randy Bennett more than anything is he's churned out under-recruited kids and turned them into NBA players.
Yep.
Patty Mills, the guy that played for him that became an NBA player, is an undersized point guard out of Australia. They've had Matthew Dellavedova, lots of guys that have come internationally. He's recruited very well there. He was one of the first to turn to international recruiting. But I think at Arizona State, you're in a similar dynamic. Gonzaga recruits at a very high level.
Right.
So you're going to be in a conference like the Big 12 with Kansas and Houston and Arizona who are recruiting at the high level like Gonzaga is. And so you've got to be able to recruit players that you could develop and turn those into star players. And so that's what he's going to have to do at Arizona State.
Mm-hmm. He's a West Coast guy through and through. Assistant coaching stops at San Diego, Idaho, Pepperdine. And that pack line defense, think Virginia under Tony Bennett. Think Texas Tech under Chris Beard. It is going to be a grind you to a halt where it's different than what Houston does defensively because Houston does a lot of trapping and double teams and they want to get you sped up in the way that they play, according to like the adjusted tempo ratings. Like Houston actually plays at a more deliberate pace, but it's really not that. I don't really know how to explain it. I'm doing my best, but with Bennett, it's going to be a slow, like, we're going to just grind you. You're going to use all 30 seconds on both ends of the floor. And then he always finds, to your point about Mills and Dellavedova, like elite three-point shooters. That's what I think of when I think of St. Mary's basketball. And with all three of these new hires, Casey Alexander, Calhoun, Bennett, they're all three really good at identifying talent via internationally. And so these are guys that I think will be able to find those three-star portal gems from mid-major programs and develop them into really high-level players. And keep in mind, Randy Bennett recruited Joshua Jefferson out of high school. Like, he's the one that initially found Joshua Jefferson.
Yeah, great point. I also love his influences. I mean, so the first guy that hired him was a guy named Hank Egan at San Diego. Hank Egan is the coach, the former Air Force coach, who first hired Greg Popovich. So that's a pretty decent list to be on. He also worked for Tim Floyd at the University of Idaho. He worked for Lorenzo Romar at St. Louis and at Washington, and then took over a St. Mary's program that had won only 2 games the previous season.
Yeah.
He's won 20 games in 18 of the 19 seasons, including a 31 season in 2017-2018. So, yeah, he's been remarkable. And look, I think the timing for this makes sense from the standpoint of Gonzaga's leaving and going to the Pac-12 next year. So St. Mary's will fall even further behind. And, in a world in which you've got to strike while the iron's hot, you never know how hot the iron will be for Andy Bennett moving forward.
Right. Does he want to continue to coach in the West Coast Conference? Sure, Gonzaga leaves, but now you win your league and win 25 to 30 games every year, and you're a 13 or 14 seed in the NCAA tournament versus the, 7 seed that they had this year, or 10 seed, whatever it was. All right, coming up next, Scott Springer from the Cincinnati Enquirer to talk more about Calhoun. They are super hyped about this hire out in Cincinnati because they get a guy that learned the coaching ways under Bob Huggins, the Cincinnati legend. He's Ariam James. This is Big 12 Radio.
Houston in white, Kansas in blue. Kip Kissinger, Tony Padilla, Brooks Wells, our officials tonight. And we're underway. It'll be the Cougars to open it up.
Manuel Sharp is all defensive team as well. He's an underrated defender. You talk about his scoring all the time, but he can guard.
Turnaround, Sanak. Great rebound by Tugler. Fleming's the penetration. The feed to Sanak for the flush.
JoJo Tugler is a big-time defensive player with those long arms, and he has a live body.
And Kingston Flemings was backpedaling before that ball went through.
They're physical. Their help is there. They will trap ball screens and exchanges and trap the post.
Sanak for 3. Sanak and Tiller, a great matchup of two guys at the power forward spot. Both freshmen, both extremely talented, as is that guy. Peterson's got all 5 for the Jayhawks.
Well, this is an important steal.
Peterson will slam it. Fleming's letting that shot clock wind down. Now he drives them, and he beat him to the glass.
Boy, how beautiful was that?
Fleming. Sacco trying to gather it. Tips it to Sharp. Flemings is open. How about that?
Well, you talk about an unscripted play. This has been a clinic.
Council into Badunga, and it will eventually go in, and that is the first made field goal of the second half for the Kansas Jayhawks. Here, they'll be trying to repeat what a game it should be tomorrow night, 6 Eastern, right here on ESPN.
Big 12 today here on Big 12 Radio. This is the Big 12 Conference. This is a different league with Ari Timken. I'm James Westling. We are powered by our friends at Modelo. And a friend of the program is Scott Springer, Cincinnati Enquirer. He joins us here on the show. Good morning, Scott.
Hey, how you doing? I'm in balmy Cincinnati. It's like 30 degrees or something like that. I can turn my camera. That was the Shakely Athletic Performance Center. There's a pro day going on in there for football. And I showed Mr. Turner here the view of the ball field. Give me a tour of University of Cincinnati. Okay, there's baseball, Fifth Third Arena, and beyond there is the football. So, but you didn't call me about a tour. You want to know about Mr. Calhoun?
Dude, hey, I'm here for the tour. I think people need to see it. That is a state-of-the-art facility that you just showed us. I had Cincinnati this football season against Bowling Green early in the year, and, man, I was just blown away. I love that the football stadium sits right by the practice complex, if you will, and it's open. Like, it's open 24 hours a day. Students walk through the football stadium to get to classes. I just think it's a really underrated setup.
Oh, yeah, it's a very urban campus, so everything is squeezed in. And I went to school here a long time ago before any of this stuff was built, but there was Nippert Stadium, and jokingly it was called Nippert Beach because the football team wasn't much, and people went there to play Frisbee and lay out in the sun and skip class. But that's back when they had AstroTurf as hard as the concrete I'm standing on. But you're right, all the facilities, major upgrades all the way around, including this performance center here. I flip it. I can't take you inside because there's a pro day and it's like really quiet as these guys are, doing their lifts and their running and all that stuff. But it's a nice indoor field there, which in this climate you need because it's springtime around here. It was 80 over the weekend, and it's pushed. I don't think it's even 40 degrees right now.
Wow. All right, let's talk about the new basketball coach at Cincinnati. He's a Bob Huggins guy. He's an alum, grad assistant. What do you like about Jared Calhoun as the next coach of Cincinnati basketball?
About everything. And he's got a unique name because I showed you the pictures here. Okay, so over there is Calhoun Hall, and which sits on Calhoun Street. So a coincidence. But I think you've already got your student section named. They ought to call it Calhoun Street. Now, I'll tell you, officially, they have not confirmed this because we're playing this official game here. The rest of the world knows, but officially not confirmed. And I think a lot of that had to do with Jared Calhoun had to fly home and then drive to Logan, Utah and get off the bus and then tell his guys, I think he wanted to wait. In this day and age, microwave society, everybody wants it now. Once somebody gets something, it goes out on the X, and then all hell breaks loose. And so the rest of us have to put things out. So it's not a great secret. He was the number one candidate, I think, all along. And Jared Calhoun has the pedigree. And when he was here in 2003 and 2004, student assistant under Bob Huggins. Two of the assistants were Andy Kennedy, now at UAB, and Mick Cronin, UCLA. And I talked with Mick a little bit yesterday, and Mick's good friends with Jared, and said, hey, this guy has won at all three levels, and he's done it. He's inventive. He's attentive, all that stuff. He's still young. He's 44. Here with Huggins for a year, and then Huggins got him the job at Walsh, which is in Northern Ohio. And he went up there with a pretty good NAIA program, and then was with Huggins at West Virginia, which included the Final Four year in 2010, and then goes to Fairmont State, a D2, just to get head coaching experience, and wins there like 124 and 38, something like that. Nobody wins at Youngstown State. He had 2 losing seasons and then 4 straight winning seasons, and then you've seen what he's done at Utah State. So all the numbers are there. You're in the Big 12. It's no picnic, but, I think they couldn't have done any better.
Yeah. Wes Miller couldn't get Cincinnati to the tournament in 5 years. They got close. So this is reportedly a 6-year deal. What does AD John Cunningham, you think, need to see from Calhoun by year 2 or even year 1 or year 3, if you want to go that far, to know this was absolutely the right call?
Well, people are awfully hungry for the tournament around here. I talked to a big donor who said, I really love my marches, and my marches have been, and he used a bad word, lousy. So people want to see that. And it's been since 2019 and Mick Cronin since they've been to the NCAA tournament, which it used to be a given. It's like every March you just waited at, you'd see what you did in the conference tournament, but then let's wait for the brackets to come out, see your seed, where you're going, what's going to happen. Because Huggins went to 16, Cronin went to 9, and then it's been a long drought. So I'm not saying he needs to make it there next year. I would say it's entirely possible, but we have no idea what this roster is going to look like because put names in a hat and pick them out, that's the way your rosters are chosen up anymore. But I would think that by year 2 or 3, you need to see him, making some progress. But I would think he would make it based on his past. Wes Miller, I think that's a great hire for Charlotte. He's a wonderful guy. I texted him after he left and, had a winning record. Had 2 20-plus winning seasons, 174, won 9 games in the Big 12. And you can go back to the last 60 seconds of the game against UCF, and maybe he's still working here if they pull that out, which they should have. It was an awful loss, but it kind of was what was happening with losses. A lot of games were just, you were losing there late in the end. I was trying to clean that up, what I was going to say, but, down your leg, so to speak. And you can't do that. Not in the big boy leagues, and they're not going to have it. And so they made a change, but, he could have very easily been in the tournament. They had the talent. They certainly had the talent. On any given day, they looked like they could beat anybody. They beat Iowa State when they were number 2. I was at Fog Allen Fieldhouse when they beat the Jayhawks, and they beat them handily. And then the Jayhawks turned around 2 days later and beat Houston. So it's a crazy league, but it didn't work out overall because I think 5 years was kind of what was understood, what the timeline was going to be, and they just didn't get to the tournament. I feel bad for West, but I also feel good for him that he's back in his home state and he's somewhere where maybe he can make a change if he does well. Maybe eventually he gets back around to the Tar Heels. I mean, their job is open, so this might be an avenue for him to do that.
Yeah, and one of the things I think about Miller is they really were bad in close games. It felt like they just could not grind out wins, and close games always went the other way. Calhoun's the opposite. He went 8-1 this year in games decided by 5 points or less, and 9-3 in 2025. So, a guy that has won a lot of close games.
Yeah. I mean, Wes. You look at what Calhoun and Utah State did against Villanova, and that was a game kind of going back and forth, and then they just hit the accelerator and won. And it reminded me of a lot of past Cincinnati teams. That used to be the Cincinnati MO that. Eventually the food chain was going to work out, and these guys were going to do some crazy things. I'm sorry, I'm getting text about the pro day as I'm talking to you. Cyrus Allen just jumped 36 inches, vertical leap.
Wow.
Cyrus Allen, young 5'11" receiver. So that's pretty good hops. That's about where you guys are, I think, on the vertical.
Is Jeff Caldwell, how's his pro day? I know he was at the Combine and just had some ridiculous numbers.
Yeah, I had just walked in because this started at 8:30 Eastern, and so they were just getting underway, so I haven't seen him yet. I walked in and saw how quiet it was and figured I better do this outside or otherwise somebody's going to be throwing weights at me. But Jeff Caldwell's an absolute freak, and I think I've seen some stats where he's got numbers just crazy numbers. I mean, 6'5", but when he came here, it was he had a broad jump of 11.9 before he even played here, which would have won the Combine last year. I think he went 11.2 this past year. Very fast, decent hands. Kind of makes you wonder why he didn't get the ball more.
Yeah.
Same with tight end Joe Royer, who was at the Combine. It's like he sure could have used the ball more, but they find out about these guys. Royer had 50 catches as a junior and down to 29 as a senior, but I think he was double teamed a lot. And so, but hopefully both those guys get drafted. I think the best draft possibility is Jake Golday, the linebacker, who I think he's going to be the first of the Cincinnati guys picked. And then there's Dante Corleone. I don't know where he'll wind up in that mix there either. But those four should all be selected in the 7 rounds.
Talking with Scott Springer from the Cincinnati Enquirer to break down everything happening in Cincinnati. They've got a new basketball coach in Jared Calhoun. Now, college basketball has fixed the calendar, if you will. The portal opens the day after the national championship on April 7th, and it closes on the 21st. When you look at Cincinnati's roster, I mean, that basically gives him 2 or 3 weeks to kind of target the guys that he might want to retain. Who do you think those guys should be that maybe he tries to bring back?
Oh, from here, you want Mustafa Cham back for sure, but that also includes Mamadou Njai, the coach that came with him in the so-called package deal, which that's the oldest trick in the book there. But, yeah, I mean, seriously, go back to, Danny Manning in Kansas even. Well, I don't want to bore you guys with stupid basketball history, but yeah, Mustafa Cham. Keyshawn Tillery was a guard that played really, really good down the stretch. I think that's somebody they need to look at keeping. But keep in mind, all these guys were really, really tight with Wes. So I don't know how many he can take away. Jizzle James and Wes have a special relationship. Wouldn't surprise me if Jizzle gravitated that way. But if you're Calhoun, these are the guys you want to be talking to for sure. And Tyler McKinley's a local kid. You might get him to stay. He was a forward coming off the bench. I don't know from there. I mean, but see, Baba Miller came out on senior day, but I've read some stuff that maybe they could sneak more eligibility on him. And same with Kirk Creason. So I don't know, these guys, well, Baba's still young. Kerr's going to be 30 when he gets out of college, I think.
Kerr's already been in college for a decade.
Well, and how about, I was watching Dylan Mitchell against Kansas for St. John's thinking, how many years does this dude get?
Yeah. And he still can't hit free throws. you can't put him in the game late. I mean, if you watch the substitutions, your top defensive player, you got to go offense, defense, because if he's in the game late, he's going to clank them. I mean, he's a great player. I mean, I was sorry to see him leave Cincinnati, but, he's one of these guys now. What's homecoming for you? You're going to have 3 jackets and just show up at all these schools?
Yes.
Yeah, totally.
So, I'm not making fun of Dylan. I liked him, but just stating the fact from a basketball standpoint, I think he was up to 50% on free throws this year, and probably shot 40-something last year for Cincinnati. But, yeah, Creason, there was talk even before the season that something that happened at Arizona that he could maybe eke out another year of eligibility. But, here he was hurt. He got hurt against Houston in January and really wasn't the same, even though he started the early part of the season. And then Baba Miller, I think, could only play half a year his first year at Florida State because of some issue. So maybe there's an avenue there, although I've read mock drafts where he's a 2nd-round draft pick. So I don't know. I mean, I think everyone benefits athletically from staying and certainly now financially.
Yeah, well said. Awesome stuff. Scott, enjoy the rest of Pro Day, and thanks for hopping on with us. We appreciate it.
All right. Thanks a bunch.
Scott Springer, Cincinnati Bearcats beat writer for the Cincinnati Enquirer, live from Cincinnati's Pro Day, happening indoors. Cincinnati's got a new basketball coach, and Jared Calhoun comes from the Bob Huggins tree, went to Cincinnati, the coach at Utah State the last 2 seasons where he went 55-15. Coming up next, we pivot over to Arizona State. They have a new basketball coach, and Michelle Gardner will join us from the Arizona Republic to chat about their hire, Randy Bennett from St. Mary's. He's Ari, I'm James. This is Big 12 Radio, brought to you by Modelo on TuneIn and Big 12 Studios.
Arizona won it by 7. Just under a month ago, we are underway with a trophy on the line here tonight. And he'd love to add another one here in this game.
And Arizona would like to get Braden Burries going early.
He'll pick up an assist as Bradley knocks down a 3.
Really good.
13th in the AP poll. in the week before the season began as Pete lays it in, but they were in the top 5. Into Pete, who's had a terrific night. Left hand up and good.
Gave a look to the high-low, the dump down, and then pivoted. And especially the big guys stepping up in screening situations has been really effective for Arizona.
Some room for Sharp. A big shot for the Cougars. Fleming's on the bench right now. Miller out there with the backcourt with Uzan and Sharp. Tugler tries again and one.
Beautiful pocket pass.
10-0 run, Houston. Arizona's got foul trouble, and they've gone cold. Miller driving. Dumps it off. Laid in by Tugler. Shot clock at 7. Burries. He's going to have to put a shot up. And he banks it home. Back comes Flemings. Uzan. Hit it! And it's a 3-point game. That will do it. The regular season champs are the tournament champs here in Kansas City.
Back here on Big 12 today on Big 12 Radio, we are brought to you by Modelo. Heard exclusively on TuneIn. You're watching us on Big 12 Studios. He is Ari Timken. He's on social at Ari Sports, A-R-I Sports. I'm James Westling on social at James Westling. A little bit of a miscommunication on the route with Michelle Gardner who is set to join us this segment, the Arizona State beat writer for the Arizona Republic. She said 7 a.m. her time. It's currently 6:05 in Tempe.
Thank you.
Daylight savings. Sometimes they're mountain, sometimes they're Pacific. But I have a feeling that this is going to ruffle your feathers. The state of Kansas is inching closer, and there's a lot of support behind this, to remove daylight savings time and become one of those states that kind of bounces back and forth. So the state of Kansas would be currently in mountain time if they didn't do the whole daylight savings thing. How do you feel about that?
Is that the change that's needed in order to make it like that across the country? Does every state need to do it that way so that we don't have the mass confusion that we have?
Well, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
But like Arizona, they're out there. They're on the West Coast. Kansas, just right smack dab in the middle, bouncing between mountain and central, would blow my mind. Like we're changing time zones and we're just going straight north.
Yeah.
From where we live.
Because Nebraska.
Parts of Nebraska, and actually there is a sliver of Kansas that is in the mountain time zone.
Got it. Nebraska's in mountain time?
No, Nebraska's central.
That's what I thought.
But there's the time zone cuts through the western part of Kansas and Nebraska and ventures north, where you've got all these states where you just cross into a different time zone, but you're in the same state.
Yeah, I mean, that is, so I guess Nebraska's north of Kansas. Colorado, it makes sense.
Did you not know where Nebraska is?
No.
Map?
No. Yeah, no. I don't know where every state is located freehand, James, okay? Do you know?
Nebraska's just right there, right on top of Kansas.
Yeah. Right
Where's
there.
Wyoming?
Not on top of Kansas. Can you just freehand draw the United States of America with every...
very bad at geography.
Very bad? I know the states that border the state that I grew up in. Very bad. Oh, very bad geography. You.
Illinois, you guys are bordered by, let's see, you've got a little Wisconsin up there, correct? Got a little Indiana, a little Iowa. Nothing's on my screen.
What about Maine? What states does Maine border there, Mr. Geography?
All right, Maine would be bordered by, I believe, Taman might have to give me the assist here. Taman, we've got a little Vermont. We've got a little New Hampshire. And then Maine south is going to be either Connecticut or Massachusetts. Massachusetts.
Well, I mean, everywhere is Maine south.
Where I was leaning.
Maine north is Canada. Well, you said Maine south.
I know that Canada is north of Maine. Ari.
All right, how about Tennessee? Bordering states of Tennessee.
We got a little Kentucky up north, and then you've got a little Arkansas to the southwest, and then Tennessee, the southern part of Tennessee, you've got all kinds of friends and family there. You've got Alabama. You've got
it's actually kind of impressive.
Louisiana. And then I believe we dabble with a little bit of the Carolinas, maybe some Georgia sprinkled in the mix.
For all the things you don't know, you seem to really know a lot about American geography.
Yeah, just, I'm all about America.
It's true. You do love yourself, America.
What else you got on?
No, that's enough.
All right.
I'm through with that.
Listening to a podcast about Canada right now. Sounds lovely. They got to figure it out, man. They do.
Oh yeah, they do.
They do. Well, I tell you what, we gotta figure some things out there. All right, let's look at
world power, Canada.
Well, they can have elections whenever they want.
Yeah, there's like 70 people living in Canada. Of course they can. They have more land than people.
They
by a significant margin.
They have
a
community up there of 600 people. 600 people live in this small, I would almost call that a village. They operate over $100 billion of oil in that 600 population town.
Wow. You should go live there.
It's a hot spot.
Yeah.
Think what they could do. The college football playoff. All right, Big 12 paths to the Final Four. We were going to do this later, but we'll pivot with Michelle joining us later on in the show. So Iowa State's going to play Tennessee. Let's start there. Tennessee is a 6 seed. They're 24-11. Tennessee is one of the best rebounding teams in the country. This is going to be a bloodbath. In fact, they're the best offensive rebounding team in the nation. Iowa State's going to need Joshua Jefferson to be healthy in this game. Opposing players also only shoot about 30% around the rim against Tennessee's big guy in the middle. So this is a game on paper that I think Tennessee is a lot like Iowa State. It's the Spider-Man meme matchup in this one. What's your take?
Yeah, I mean, look, Joshua Jefferson is going to be missed. It feels unlikely that he's going to play.
I get the same feeling.
I mean, he had a scooter. He was rolling around a scooter. You think a week later you're going to be good enough to play? I don't know. Certainly it doesn't seem like it. Yeah, and I mean, I actually really like the potential matchup here with Tennessee because this feels like a Tennessee team that has outperformed expectations. Like, aside from Nate Ament, this was kind of a team that you figured was in rebuilding mode this year, and for Rick Barnes to get back to a Sweet 16. I also think, that Iowa State should have a home court advantage. They have fans that travel. Chicago's, correct me if I'm wrong here, Mr. Geography, pretty close.
Yeah.
Ames, Iowa.
Yeah, they like Chicago.
And yeah, I mean, I think like what Iowa State did against Kentucky, they've got to try to duplicate that defensively. Early on in that game, it's funny. T.J. Otzelberger was interviewed
in Kansas City is underway.
One of the things he said was, "Yeah, we're down. They've hit some shots, but like we'll wait for the 40 minutes of basketball to play before we assess the full defensive approach." And it was extremely well stated because after that moment, like, they just locked and clamped down defensively. They forced 20 turnovers. They converted 20 turnovers into 25 points. And like, I just think what they do on the glass, what they do on the defensive end, that helps to make up for what they might not have on the offensive end. This is probably the best offensive team they've had since Otz has been there, which doesn't say a lot. And obviously, you're losing some of that firepower without Jefferson, but I think they can beat Tennessee without Jefferson.
I do too. I mean, Iowa State is 18-2 with Tamin Lipsey. When his assist to turnover ratio is 3-1 or better, they are 18-2. And against Kentucky, he had those 3 early turnovers and then a clean sheet the rest of the way. Finished with 10 assists to just 3 turnovers. Also poured in 26 points. And here's what Lipsey said about Iowa State and their coaching staff.
I mean, we go in and work every day. Daily habits, that's something that's huge in our program. And that it starts with our coach. It starts with TJ. You see them, how they work in the office every day, and the players just follow their lead.
Tamin Lipsey on the coaching staff at Iowa State. TJ Otzelberger will go up against Rick Barnes. So Tennessee's also very freshman-led. Jacoby Gillespie, I know he's not a freshman, but the other kid is kind of their offense. Now, Gillespie had 21 points and 6 assists in their win over Virginia. Bishop Boswell added 13 points on 4 3-pointers. Also, the Tennessee starting backcourt, they only had 5 turnovers against Virginia. Iowa State's pressure, I think, could be a problem because Virginia does not pressure the ball at all. There's still more of that, I wouldn't call it a pack line defense, but they don't get after the guards like Iowa State does. So I'm with you. I like the matchup.
Then you have on the other side Michigan and Alabama. Alabama, like what they did against Texas Tech, hitting 19 threes, is like they can do that, as we've seen at times. Texas Tech also be able to do, and I think amazingly Alabama did the same thing to BYU last year in the tournament, where they just went absolutely bananas from 3. Michigan has a way better ability to defend that. When you think about Lendenborg is at 6'9", Murray's at 7'3", Johnson's 6'9". They've got guys, wings that can, big men that can switch around the perimeter and guard the perimeter. I think Michigan will beat Alabama pretty handily.
Do you?
Yeah.
I mean, they do open as a 10.5-point favorite. Michigan's top 10 nationally in rebounding margin and defensive rebounds per game, and limit opponents to offensive rebounds. But Alabama's shooting the cover off the ball. I mean, they look better without Holloway. I think the ball's not sticking as much. They've scored 90 points in each of their first-round wins. This is a game I've got upset alert on. I'm not saying I'm picking Alabama, but, I mean, Michigan is second in defensive efficiency, but, I mean, if Alabama's shooting the basketball like they have in the first 2 rounds, Michigan's not a great three-point shooting team. In fact, their best three-point shooter is out for the year, and he got hurt late in the season right before the Big Ten tournament.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think there's definitely some things to like about this matchup for Bama. Bama's also 60th in Ken Palm defense. So, I mean, they're going to be, pretty consistently and severely tested, especially by that interior, with Mara and then, Lendon Borg's ability to create shots and Cadeau in the pick and roll. Again, I think I think Michigan wins handily against Alabama.
Yeah, I mean, you look at a couple of Alabama's losses. So they got beat by Purdue back in the non-conference. They got out-rebounded in that game 52-28. They also played Gonzaga when Gonzaga's front line was healthy. Huff was still healthy. They got out-rebounded by +10. Like, rebounding has been a problem. They're 356th in the country in rebounds per game.
I think if Iowa State plays Michigan, that's one where you'd need Joshua Jefferson. And I think if he's close, maybe you hold him out for the Tennessee game, hope you can win, and then get him healthy for the Michigan game because they're going to need him. I mean, they're the most balanced, the deepest team in the country. If they're not, Arizona is. But Michigan is really, really good. They have a great front court presence. They've got a great back court. As you mentioned, they're not a great three-point shooting team, but it's like maybe the one knock on them. They're 8th nationally in defense. I mean, what are they? They're higher than 8th in defense.
Yeah, they're second.
Yeah, I was gonna say
defensive efficiency. They're a lot like Arizona, where
yes.
They're big. They don't shoot a ton of threes.
Got great depth. They're elite on defense. You're right. They're exactly like Arizona.
They can get up and down the floor. A lot of parallels there. All right, let's take a break. Coming up next here on Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio, we're going to play a little Valid or Void. Taman has the topics we discuss. Coming up next on Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio, brought to you by Modelo here on TuneIn.
In Kansas City is underway. West Virginia basketball. Two teams looking for the first points in this game. Provided by Jordan Harrison. Cook trying to get around Miles. Good feed to McCray. Rolls it in for two. Miles. Defended by Woodley. Miles down the lane. Count it, and one. Harrison. For two. Jordan Harrison, as Christy talked about right at the top of the telecast.
She usually will take her defender off the bounce and back them down. But right now, maybe this is going to be two for him. There you go.
Great feed by Miles as she finds Parker. Harrison. Count it to three. Mountaineers dodge one there. TCU had multiple opportunities.
And right now, with this 9-point lead, West Virginia does not need to be in a hurry. They do not even need to look to shoot the shot until about 5 seconds to go.
Inside of 2 minutes to go, Wheeler on the drive. Big B, good shooter. Can't get it. Rebound, Makaluski.
TCU's got a foul.
They don't get anybody. Here's Shaw all alone for the layup. Cue Country Roads. For the first time in 9 years, West Virginia, Big 12 tournament champions.
Back here on Big 12 today on Big 12 Radio, powered by Modelo. Heard exclusively on TuneIn. We're about 20 minutes away from Anthony Christensen, the Arkansas athletic reporter for WholeHogSports.com, to preview Arkansas and Arizona. We'll get the opponent angle for that Sweet 16 matchup. But now we play a little Valor or Void. He's Ari. I'm James. Taman, our producer, has the topics, and we decide, is this statement valid or is it void? So where are we starting today, T-Chains?
We are starting in Lawrence, Kansas, Ari's alma mater, and we're going to start with Bill Self. Valid or void, he will be the coach of the Kansas Jayhawks next season.
I'm going to let you take it.
Ari's waiting for that tweet.
All right. I thought you'd want to be all over this. I'm going to say valid.
I'm going to let you decide which side you're going to take here.
Well, do we have to take different sides on this one? Okay.
Wrong one.
All right. I'm going to say Bill Self will be the coach at Kansas next season, which means I'm going to validate this. Because I think if he was stepping down, we would know by now. I don't think that Bill Self is going to wait and see more than 24 or 48 hours post-NCAA tournament loss. And here's really the reason why I think he's going to come back one more year. KU's recruiting class is elite. Even with Darren Peterson last year, they finished with the number 16 ranked recruiting class in the country. Right now, they have the number 3 class in the country, and that's without Tyron Stokes factored in, who's the number 1 player in America, and the crystal ball projections on 24/7 Sports says it's 100% he's going to be a Kansas Jayhawk. So you factor in Stokes, Taylon Kinney, the point guard from Overtime Elite, Davion Adkins, who's a top 70 player, Trent Perry's a top 100 player. They've got guards, they've got post players, they've got nothing but 4 and 5 stars set as part of this incoming class. So I think he's going to ride it out one more year with these guys.
So I do not have to take the opposite side of this.
You don't. You take whatever you want.
Yeah, I'm going to validate this as well based on what you just said in terms of the recruiting class that's coming in, because I'm not sure you keep that recruiting class if you do not keep Bill Self. And maybe the plan is to hand the keys over to Jacques Vaughn, which is something I wouldn't be excited about relative to going out and doing a full-on coaching search. But maybe that's the one piece where it's like, well, you hand the keys to Jacques Vaughn, and he's a big part of the recruiting for why those guys ended up there. Maybe that's the best way to keep it. But it does seem more and more like this is not the type of season to walk away after, right? I mean, coaches are obsessed with not walking away in bad situations, and though they made the tournament again and made the second round, this was not a banner year for the Kansas Jayhawks. Look, I think he's legitimately taking some time to think about this. And I do think that he's leaning that he will not come back. But I think at the end of the day, when he puts more thought into it and recognizes the type of team he's going to have next year and that might go away if he's gone, I think he'll come back for one more year.
And don't you think like one more year of Jacques Vaughn as your top assistant maybe kind of helps with the press conference move that Jacques Vaughn's been on staff for a couple of years? Look at what he's done in the recruiting cycles as being your next guy. If it's not another coach from this conference or Todd Golden or somebody else. Yeah.
But I think Bill Self wants to keep coaching. And if you're Kansas, you can't, at this point, stop him from doing that.
You can't pull a Kyle Whittingham.
Right, exactly. You're not going to with Bill Self. Whittingham, as good as he was, didn't win 2 national championships and go to 4 Final Fours.
Mm-hmm.
Just for the record, too, Bill Self also said that he was not going to leave on a down season.
Right.
He did say at the beginning.
But he did say in February of 2025 that instead of a 5-year plan, he's looking at a 2-year plan, and this would make that 2 years.
Yeah. And then he said this summer that he almost stepped down in like July when he was hospitalized again.
All right, topic number 2. We're staying pretty much in Lawrence. So topic number 2, valid or void. Darren Peterson will not be drafted in the top 2 during this year's NBA draft.
You got the lead on this one?
I'm going to avoid this one. I still think Darren Peterson is going to be the number 1 overall pick in the upcoming draft. I think maybe there's some things you could think about if you're an NBA GM, but don't overthink this. Like this dude, his ability to get downhill, like don't let how bad the Kansas offense was around him dictate how you feel about his offensive ceiling. And then I think we also saw it defensively. Like one of the most underrated aspects of the game against St. John's was I think he had 3 blocks in that game. So, I mean, defensively, he's been phenomenal. Offensively, he's been getting to the rim. He's been getting open shots. Like, we've seen kind of the full complement since he's been fully healthy and playing full minutes. I'm sure NBA teams will have questions about, the cramps and the mental part of it, but don't overthink this one. He's the best player in this draft.
Yeah. I saw an article about Peterson. It was total clickbait about having mental health issues, and then it was just snippets of his post-game press conference where he said, yeah, the in and out of the lineup kind of messed with me this year. It's like, wow, they really went and ran with that one. ESPN still has Peterson going number 1 to the Kings. CBS Sports has Peterson number 2 behind DeBonsa. Bleacher Report is the one outlet that does have him at 2 or 3 because of what Camden Boozer is doing at Duke. So I think a lot of it comes down to who wins the lottery and gets picks 1, 2, and 3. I could see him maybe sliding to 3 if somebody desperately needs a post player. What's crazy about this draft is Camden Boozer is putting up better numbers than Cooper Flagg did at Duke last year. Like, Cooper Flagg may have been the 4th pick in this year's NBA draft, but I'm still thinking that Peterson's number 1 or 2.
Yeah, and for me, the Blazers didn't take Michael Jordan because they had Clyde Drexler. Don't overthink this. I've heard the Pacers, if they had the first pick, would take Boozer because he fits well with Siakam. No, what? No. Just take the best player. What are you doing?
Also, Peterson was on the floor the last 2-3 weeks of the season. The minutes thing was no longer an issue, and he was still balling out.
Well, and again, I go back to what the questions were about Kansas before the season started. Ended up becoming their undoing. We saw at different points throughout the year that they had good depth, but that depth went away at the end of the year. I don't blame what happened on Darren Peterson.
I'll just say this, as an NBA guy, I do think it'll come down to team, but I think whether you go DeBonta or Peterson, you're getting a great player, regardless of who you pick.
Or Boozer.
Or Boozer.
Any of the 3.
Yeah, any of those 3. They're
getting plug-and-play NBA All-Stars immediately.
That's a great not say anything, but say something kind of comment.
Yeah.
All right, topic number 3. Houston has the easiest path out of all the Big 12 teams remaining to make it to the Final Four. Valid or void? There's Houston, Iowa State, and Arizona.
Ooh.
Sir?
Valid. Houston has by far the easiest path. They've got a 9-seed Iowa left with a 4-seed Nebraska. I don't know why you're looking at me like that. I don't like that look. I don't like it. Arizona has to play an Arkansas team that has length and athleticism. Arizona also has Purdue, who's the second most efficient offense in the country, that they could potentially play in the Elite Eight. Iowa State, I know they get 6-seed Tennessee, but then they'll have the winner of Michigan or Alabama looming on the other side. Houston gets an Illinois team that has played Penn and VCU. This will be the first team seeded 11 or better that Houston's seen in this tournament. That Illinois has seen in this tournament. I think Houston's going to be a matchup nightmare for that Illinois team. They're going to be super physical with the Wagner kid. And then you get Iowa or Nebraska in the Elite Eight. Yeah, I think Houston does have the easiest path.
No, Michigan has the easiest path. They've got an Alabama team that doesn't know how to defend, and then an Iowa State team potentially.
Timeout. What was the question?
I
void.
Said, out of all the Big 12 teams.
Oh, got it.
This guy.
Houston has the easiest path out of all Big 12 teams to make the Final Four. I think Arizona does. I'm going to avoid this.
Okay.
Yeah, no. Now that I've read the question properly, my answer here is Arizona.
I mean, now I understand why you were scowling at me, though.
Yeah. Because I think Illinois is as tough of a matchup as there is for anybody in the Sweet 16. They're Elite Eight. I'm agreeing with you on Houston for their Elite Eight matchup, but Illinois is the #1 offense in college basketball. This is going to be a great matchup of great offense against great defense. I think Arizona has the easiest path. For one, it's a virtual home series. It's in San Jose. I know that's not close, but I just think from a West Coast perspective, the travel for anybody else is far further for Texas, for Purdue, or for Arkansas. And Purdue's really good offensively, but not nearly as good defensively. Arizona, for me, has the easiest path of any Big 12 teams.
Dude, I'm so hyped for that Iowa-Nebraska game. There's going to be a couple safeties, some field goals, probably looking at a 12-9 score in that game. It's going to be electric. Oh, they're playing basketball. Who do you like in that one, by the way?
Nebraska.
You do?
Yeah, final answer.
All right.
I just want to say I agree with James. Houston, especially with them basically playing literally in their backyard. Okay, final one. Valid or void? Iowa State will beat Alabama regardless if Joshua Jefferson plays or not.
Now, wait a minute, T-Chains. Alabama still has to play Michigan.
Yeah, I jumped ahead.
You did jump ahead.
I did jump.
Iowa State plays Tennessee.
Tennessee.
Trying to see if Iowa
ahead.
and Nebraska played each other in the regular season.
I jumped ahead. That's my apologies.
They did play. They played once in February, and Iowa won 57-52, but the game was in Iowa City. Oh, and then they played again in the Big Ten tournament, and Nebraska won 84-75.
I'm confused.
We all are.
Alabama plays Michigan.
Yeah. It is a little.
Yeah.
Iowa State plays Tennessee.
Yeah, he meant Tennessee.
Got it.
Iowa State will beat Tennessee regardless if Joshua Jefferson plays or not. You take the lead on this one.
Yeah, I'm going to validate this. I just pretty much made the argument that I thought that Tennessee is kind of a surprise to being here, and Iowa State is not. Iowa State defensively will put them in a straitjacket, and I think Tennessee's offense will struggle. And, I mean, we've seen Tennessee struggle with great defensive teams. So, yeah, I think regardless of Joshua Jefferson, the way that Iowa State ran and won the game against Kentucky was the same way they could beat Tennessee.
Yeah, I watched a lot of that Tennessee-Virginia game. I had a little skin in the game in that one, and Virginia consistently got wide-open threes that they just bricked one play after another. Late in the game, they're down by 3. They get a wide-open corner 3, and the kid airballs it. Iowa State, if that's Momcilovic, that's money all day. Same thing with Tamin Lipsey. He's shooting the basketball, and the best he's ever shot it. So I like Iowa State, too. The Jefferson piece is – but, I would almost sit him even if he's like 90%. Like, don't play him if he doesn't need to play, because if he's not 100% and he's out there, he can almost disrupt your offense in a negative way. I think Nate Heisey is very capable. Dominicus Plata only played 5 or 6 minutes in their win over Kentucky because he didn't need to. He can bang with those Tennessee bigs on the glass. Tennessee does have an elite shot blocker, but that might not matter in this game because Iowa State's going to shoot the ball so much better than Virginia. Dallin Hall for Virginia got anywhere he wanted on the floor in the closing minutes. He just made a bunch of boneheaded plays down the stretch. Iowa State, if that's Tamin Lipsey knifing his way into the lane, it's game over. So, yeah, give me Iowa State either way.
I agree. I'm going with Iowa State on that one. Those are all the topics I have, fellas.
Let's see. Tennessee has logged double-digit offensive rebounds in 34 of their 35 games this year. So they are a monster on the glass.
Yes.
They lead the nation in offensive rebounding percentage. They miss a lot of shots, but they rebound 45% of their misses.
But that's bad news for them in this game because Iowa State is also a load on the glass.
So like Blake Buchanan is going to have a big game on the glass. I think Killian Torrey is an elite defender and a really underrated rebounder. And then my X factor is Dominicus Plata.
You just love to say his name.
Man, big fan of Plata. Big fan. Huge. Anything else, Taman?
That's all I got.
All right, good stuff. That's Valid or Void here on Big 12 Radio. Coming up next, Anthony Christensen, the Arkansas athletic reporter for Whole Hog Sports. .com to preview Arizona's opponent, the Sweet 16. We get the Arkansas angle coming up next. This is Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio.
The focus needs to be on the players and on their great play on the court, so I support the Big 12's decision 100%.
Underway, and it is Arizona with the first possession. This Iowa State team 27-6 on the season, 12-6 in league play. They finished in a 3-way tie for third, but because the tiebreakers fell down to the 5 seed.
Is what makes him so incredibly valuable, and that's one of the biggest reasons he's Big 12 Player of the Year.
2-man game, Lipsey and Buchanan. Rebound, Lipsey. Momcilovic for 3. They are extremely talented, and this guy is one of the reasons why. Tobe Awaka Came up with a rebound, couldn't finish, got it back again. And Del Orso knocks down his second three of the night. Pete averages almost 3 assists per game. Deflected by Del Orso. He's got it back. A little Euro step, and it rolls in for him. What a sequence, Jay, here in the closing seconds of the first half.
2 huge threes in transition by Momcilovic.
He's going to try one more. Got it! Oh!
Tobe will walk it down on the baseline with Krivas. They can duck in hard.
Bradley can't shake Torrey. Forces it up and hits. Finds Buchanan. 10 to shoot. Buchanan looking for somebody to give it to. Finds Lipsy. 5 to shoot. Tie game!
Remember, it's not just the first shot, it's the offensive rebound.
Bradley trying to do it himself. He does! He hit it!
Back here on Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio, brought to you, the full-time fan, by Modelo. Looking at Big 12 teams and their path to potentially a Final Four. We get the opponent angle. We're going to do this all week long, and we start today with Arkansas as we welcome in Anthony Christensen, who covers Arkansas for Whole Hog Sports. Hey, Anthony, good morning.
Hey, good morning. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for joining us and kind of breaking down this Arkansas team. We remember Arkansas because they took out Kansas last year in the NCAA tournament. Darius Acuff Jr., 60 points, 10 or more assists, 5 or less turnovers in his 2 tournament games. Nobody's ever done that in the tournament era. So enlighten our Big 12 nation on just how special this kid is.
Yeah, no, so I actually, while I've been out here, one of the first stories I wrote was going around and asking different players from different teams about what makes Darius Acuff unique and difficult to guard and scout. And I asked 5 different guys, and I got 5 different answers. So I think that kind of, I guess, puts it into perspective a little bit. But, with Darius Acuff, I think the biggest thing that you're going to notice is just how good he is at adjusting and being just, I mean, the engine, the floor general and everything like that. I mean, he hits tough shots a lot of times when teams are playing, against a guy like that. They're going to be fine forcing him into the mid-range and forcing him into difficult shots like that, but he's still, he hits those at a high rate. He shoots over 50% from the floor, if I'm not mistaken, from, true mid-range and at the rim and at the, he's not a 50% three-point shooter, but he's over 40% from 3. So I mean, he can score from every level, and then he can play in isolation. If a team comes and tries to put help on him, he finds the open man, and he just offensively he just does just about everything well, and that makes him a really difficult player to scout and to prepare for. And I think just his ability to adjust and find the different options when it's not on for him is another thing that it just it just is what it is. And yeah, I think that's the most impressive thing about him. I think is his ability to hit tough shots, and then his ability to get others involved whenever sometimes those aren't falling necessarily at the same frequency that they typically do. So I think that's not necessarily one thing, but just a lot of different ways to yap about how good Darius Acuff is. I mean, I'm only a few years out of college, so maybe this isn't the best way to contextualize it, but I mean, he's the best player I've covered in my career so far by a pretty healthy distance.
John Calipari, I think, at the end of his time at Kentucky, there were questions about, his ability in terms of in-game coaching. But now 2 Sweet 16 appearances in 2 years at Arkansas. Like, what do you make of some of those questions about his coaching and in-game adjustments?
Yeah, no, it's a good question, and I think obviously you look at the way things ended at Kentucky. I still feel like, I think it was probably best for all parties for a change to happen, and obviously Arkansas was an area where that was a possibility. But I think that you've seen there's still the ability to do that, right? I think that a lot of people had those questions, not just on the Kentucky angle, but I think just overall. I mean, you look at obviously the loss to Oakland or the loss to Kansas State the year before, and I don't remember how long it had been since Kentucky had been to the second weekend of the NCAA tournament, just off the top of my head. I think it was maybe 4 or 5 years. And, I think, those questions are obviously naturally going to come up. And, he was really heavily reliant on freshmen and still obviously is. Maybe didn't embrace the portal like a lot of other coaches had, or at least to the level that other coaches had. Obviously, Oscar Shibwe and, guys like him were brought in through the portal. So I think that's a lot of where those questions kind of came. But now you look at, the success he's had at Arkansas, and I think, some of it comes down to last season. Obviously they had to shift and adjust a lot of things when Boogie Fland went down with his thumb injury, and he, had to move DJ Wagner back onto, full-time on-ball point guard duties. And then this season, I think, the job maybe gets a little easier when you've got a guy like Darius Acuff, but you obviously had to recruit him and get him in and everything like that. But also I think that you've seen, just times with, how they've kind of had to, adjust mid-game. You look at, the wins over Missouri, how they've had to kind of change how they guarded Mark Mitchell. Even though Mark Mitchell had great games in those 2 games, they kind of had to change how they were guarding him to limit him as a ball a ball distributor and kind of limit his ability to get his teammates involved just because of how much Mark Mitchell did everything for Missouri, or against Vanderbilt, how they guarded Tyler Tanner in both of those games. And I think that you've seen a lot of ways that you can definitely tell that he's still a very good in-game coach. And I don't want to I don't want to sit here and say that anybody made any mistakes in the Kentucky breakup, because I think it was still best for everybody involved that a change was made. But yeah, I think you can see that there is still he's still a good in-game coach as well. So I think that's I think you've seen that these past couple of years, and especially last year, the second round game against St. John's, how they guarded RJ Lewis and kind of forced St. John's to kind of take him out of the game at the end. I don't think RJ Lewis played the last 4 or 5 minutes in that game, and I think that was a testament to the way they adjusted early and kind of forced St. John's into a game that it wasn't comfortable playing. And I think that was probably a longer answer than you were looking for, but yeah, that's kind of just kind of where the mind goes sometimes.
Well, it's interesting because even though he had some of those like upset losses, when he's an underdog in the tournament, Coach Cal is 9-3-1 against the spread. So he's really, really good as an underdog. I want to ask you about a game that happened February 28th. So Arkansas got beat by Florida 111-77. But Arkansas has not lost since. Like, what changed after that loss for the Razorbacks?
Yeah, I don't know that really anything necessarily changed per se. I just think that was a really bad game for Arkansas. It was a bad matchup for Arkansas as well, with Florida and, its front court and how well they play there. That's kind of, and I'm sure we'll get into it, but that's kind of an area that, Arkansas has struggled a little bit this season, is playing against teams with really big and elite front courts, which, I mean, maybe not struggled is the right word, but been inconsistent against. I mean, they beat Tennessee, they beat, Louisville at the time was playing really well in the front court, though obviously I don't think that kind of withstood throughout the season. But I don't know that anything necessarily changed. I just think that Arkansas kind of, I guess, just got back to what it was doing. And you look at kind of the matchups, and Missouri and Texas, obviously Matas Vokatitis is a really good big man who they play a lot through him. So you could say that they changed some things in how they approach the game against Texas and Missouri, kind of limiting, maybe not necessarily limiting, but limiting looks to Matas Vokatitis and Mark Mitchell in those games. I think maybe they did a better job of doing that. But then you look at, how everything just kind of went from there. I mean, Darius Acuff has been just, against Florida, I think he had 17 points on 19 shots. But then since then, he's had one inefficient game, I want to say, and it was probably Ole Miss, and he still finished with, I think it was 24 points on 21 shots just off the top of my head. And, he got other guys involved, Malik Thomas in particular in that game. But yeah, I think it was just kind of getting back to that, finding ways to, limit, the effectiveness outside of, the front court, I guess. But yeah, just kind of getting back to what was working before that. And a lot of that comes from Darius Acuff being more efficient from the field, but also, defensively kind of limiting the looks that, the truly elite big guys, your Matas Vokatitis, Mark Mitchell, guys in those games. I think that they did a better job of limiting their ability to affect the game in multiple ways, I guess is the best way to answer that.
How do you think Arkansas can test Arizona? Where do you think, Arkansas can win in this game?
Yeah, so I think defensively, you probably want to try to force Arizona into taking threes, which obviously Arizona shoots the ball pretty well from three. They just don't take a lot of them. If I'm not mistaken, Arizona takes the third fewest threes in the country, and I think that's a testament to Tommy Lloyd and just how well he's done this season in coaching. That he has a team this good that is almost never reliant on the 3-point line. Yeah. But I think that's probably an area that Arkansas is going to try to force them into, is trying to trying to get them to take that many threes. I mean, Braden Burries and Anthony Delorso are really the only guys who take a lot of those shots. So maybe limiting or trying to limit, those guys' looks from the perimeter and try to get them to go inside, whereas trying to get, other guys to take those shots. And then, I mean, you look at, Arizona's defense is obviously elite. Arizona just in general is obviously elite, right? But you're probably going to need a big time game from Darius Acuff in this one. Not that that's the hottest take in the world or anything that's breaking any news, but you look at how well Arkansas has played when they play against some of these more elite teams. You look at how they played against Houston, and I know that was just a 9-point game, but it felt like it was probably a bigger, or should have been maybe a bigger margin in that game. And they didn't necessarily get a ton of production outside of Darius Acuff, and they got some out of Malik Ewan, but he was not great from the free throw line in that game. But yeah, I think you're looking at a game where Arkansas is going to need Darius Acuff to play really well, and they're also going to need to, probably play its best game defensively of the season. I think those are the two things that you need Arkansas to do in this game, and I think that you look at the way that Arkansas has played. Its offense is obviously what it is. Arkansas is one of the best offenses in the country. They like to play at pace, so maybe they can try to speed Arizona up a little bit, though. I mean, obviously, I think that a lot of teams, have played at pace against Arizona. You've seen a lot of teams that play high pace, and, it's not like Arizona plays necessarily slowly either, but they don't turn the ball over, so making sure that, that they continue to play well, in that aspect, not giving a ball away or allowing free possessions for Arizona. And I think that's kind of, again, where the mind just kind of goes, and probably a longer answer than was anticipated, but yeah.
Anthony, as somebody that covers Arkansas for, a team that's in the SEC, I should say, what is your perception of the Big 12 as a men's basketball conference?
Oh, to me, it's the best, right? I mean, you look at just how well the Big 12 has kind of, I guess, established itself. I know that the Big 10 is the most teams still playing this season, and obviously the SEC last year was what it was. But I think just overall the consistency of the Big 12, just the amount of just awesome teams that it has consistently on a year-by-year basis, makes it consistently the best league in the country. Maybe this year it's the Big 10, and maybe last year is the Big 12 or the SEC, excuse me. But I think overall, just the consistency of the Big 12 is, it's fun to see. The Big 12 is, among my favorite conferences to watch, just as a general college basketball fan. I grew up in St. Louis in a Mizzou family, so a lot of the games that we were watching growing up were Big 12 games. So, it's a league that obviously I've got some affinity for in that regard. And then just, growing up and now becoming a college basketball reporter, and, somebody who has to, my job is to keep tabs on what's happening just around the country. And, to me, the Big 12 is, one of the more entertaining leagues to watch. I think it's one of the, and obviously they've got a lot of the best teams, coming out of the Big 12. Obviously, Arizona this year has been what it is. Houston is always just exceptional. Iowa State, obviously is awesome. You go down the line and you can look at a lot of different things. Obviously, BYU, once Richie Saunders got hurt, kind of started stumbling a lot. You can say the same a little bit about Texas Tech as well, even though they won the first 3 games without JT Toppin, but then after that it kind of stumbled a little bit. Kansas, wasn't what it typically is, but it's still a really great team. And you could go down the list and just talk about how good the Big 12 is just from top to bottom. And I just, like I said, I love watching the Big 12.
Awesome, man. Awesome stuff. We see you, Anthony. We see you, the St. Louis kid, rocking the blues hoodie. here on Big 12 today. Appreciate your time, and always fun to get the opponent angle, so thanks for coming on the show with us.
Absolutely. Thanks again for having me. Had a lot of fun.
Anthony Christensen, Arkansas athletic reporter for WholeHogSports.com, to tell us about Arizona's next opponent in the NCAA tournament, the Arkansas Razorbacks. Coming up next, we will talk with Michelle Gardner from the Arizona Republic. We are back on schedule as she will join us to discuss Arizona State's new coaching hire. They're going to bring in Randy Bennett from St. Mary's. It is a big splash hire. And if you think about their last two basketball hires, Molly Miller and Randy Bennett, could be 2 for 2. We'll talk with Michelle coming up next here on Big 12 Radio.
Houston in white, Kansas in blue. Kim Kissinger, Tony Padilla, Brooks Wells, our officials tonight. And we're underway. It'll be the Cougars to open it up.
Manuel Sharp is all defensive team as well. He's an underrated defender. You talk about his scoring all the time, but he can guard.
Turnaround, Sanak. Great rebound by Tugler. Fleming's the penetration. The feed to Sanak for the flush.
JoJo Tugler is a big-time defensive player with those long arms, and he has a live body.
And Kingston Flemings was backpedaling before that ball went through.
They're physical. Their help is there. They will trap ball screens and exchanges and trap the post.
Sanak for 3. Sanak and Tiller, a great matchup of two guys at the power forward spot. Both freshmen, both extremely talented, as is that guy. Peterson's got all 5 for the Jayhawks.
Yeah, this is an important steal.
Peterson will slam it. Fleming's letting that shot clock wind down. Now he drives them, and he beat him to the glass.
Boy, how beautiful was that?
Fleming. Sacco trying to gather it. Tips it to Sharp. Flemings is open. How about that?
Well, you talk about an unscripted play. This has been a clinic.
Council into Badunga, and it will eventually go in, and that is the first made field goal of the second half for the Kansas Jayhawks. Here, they'll be trying to repeat what a game it should be tomorrow night, 6 Eastern, right here on ESPN.
Big 12 today here on Big 12 Radio. All Big 12 all the time. This is the Big 12 Conference. This is a different league. Ari's dancing again for the fourth time on today's program. That's how we welcome Michelle Gardner from the Arizona Republic. Arizona State, they're dancing in Tempe because they've got a new basketball coach, Randy Bennett, leaving St. Mary's, where he's been for the last 2.5 decades, to be the next head men's basketball coach at Arizona State. Michelle, good morning. Enlighten us on how this all went down. I don't think Michelle can hear us.
I would second
I can hear
that.
you now.
She can hear us now. There we go. All right. Michelle, Randy Bennett, new head basketball coach at Arizona State. We opened by welcoming you to the show, obviously, and then also just tell us how this all went down.
Well, I mean, you look at when Coach Hurley was dismissed, told he wasn't coming back. However, I don't like to call it a firing. I think it's more of a parting of the ways because he served out his contract. So that was just a week ago. So the fact that that was only a week ago tells me that the school kind of had their eye on Randy Bennett all along, or at least had a very short list of people that it wanted to talk to. That's one thing that tells me. Randy Bennett is a name that's come up the last few years. Every time that they've talked about they need another coach besides Bobby Hurley, Randy Bennett's name seems to be the first one that has come up. When you look at Graham Rossini and his pattern of hires, he had said that he wanted somebody that this just was not I'm glad to be in the Pac-12. Oh, I'm not just glad to be in a power conference school. So in other words, he wanted somebody with local ties here. And I think that obviously Randy Bennett fits that mold. So I don't think that there's any surprise at all in this hire.
Yeah, and I mean, I think there's so much within this hire, Michelle, that makes sense. He's from Mesa. His dad's a legendary coach in Mesa, and has always been in the West Coast. He's got great influences, but he is 63, and you wonder if his offensive style can work in the Big 12. What are your thoughts on both of those?
Well, that's the $100,000 question, and in looking at the reaction on social media or whatever. Ever since his name has come out, it's been kind of a mixed bag. I would say probably 50% of the people are saying, hey, it's a good hire. I think there's probably 25% that don't like the hire, whether it's the style of play or his age. And then there's another 25% that are like, well, maybe it's the best we can do. That's where this program is right now. Maybe that's the best we can do. So the reaction is kind of all over the map.
Which is really
and whether or not it can work in the Big 12, we'll see. I mean, he's regarded as a very good coach. And usually, if you have a very good coach, their style works no matter what conference they're in or what kind of opponent they're facing. Time will tell.
Yeah, that's really interesting that number's not a little bit higher when it comes to the excitement around this hire. Just curious, I think I read that Arizona State had a candidate list of like 20 that they cut down to 3. Do you know who the other candidates were at the top?
That I don't.
Okay.
I mean, this is really the only name. When you look at, there were a lot of people throwing out their personal opinion lists, but I didn't see anything come out as far as they definitely interviewed this guy. I really never saw any of that from anybody. The other name that kind of kept coming up a little bit was Derek Glasser. Who's a former player at the school. He played in 2006, I believe it was, and he was on the James Harden team. He is a current assistant at UC Santa Barbara, not exactly the basketball hotbed of the world. Now, he's never been a head coach, but he's a younger guy. I believe he's in his mid-30s, I want to say. So that name kind of came up a little bit, and some people said, no, not a good fit because he's never been a head coach. You don't want a guy that's never been a head coach to be a head coach in the Pac-12 for the first time. So some people are suggesting maybe he brings him on staff as maybe a coach in waiting, kind of learns the ropes. Maybe he brings some James Harden money with him because the school always needs that. So that's another name that I've heard come up. some people say at least let's put him on staff and like maybe groom him as a coach in waiting. So that's another name that's kind of come up.
Yeah, and it feels like he's the complete opposite of Randy Bennett. Bennett is experienced. He's won a ton of games. He's older. It feels like Glasser is the type where if he keeps ascending, he will eventually become the coach. And maybe Bennett's a great stopgap at his age, to kind of get them to the next guy, which they expect to be Glasser. But it feels like hiring an assistant from a program that's not even good at this point in time would be like hiring the UC Santa Barbara head coach would be a stretch, let alone an assistant on that staff.
Well, another name that some people kind of threw out there is Jace Coburn from Portland State. That's another decent mid-major, and he is from here. He's another native that is from, the area. So that name came up a little bit, A, because he's been a head coach, B, he's from the area, and he's a little bit older. I believe he's 43. I think I looked it up. So that was another name that kind of came. I don't know whether or not he got an interview. I don't know, but that was kind of another name that came up.
Talking with Michelle Gardner from the Arizona Republic about Randy Bennett, who's the next men's basketball coach at Arizona State. And Michelle, should we get ready for the Arizona State Gales this season? Because St. Mary's, their top 7 scorers are all underclassmen. I imagine the line of thinking is that a lot of those guys will be Sun Devils next year.
Well, I noticed the same thing. And when you look at the leading scorer, the big kid from Lithuania, he did play at Arizona as a freshman, so he's no stranger to the Big 12. See, I'm still saying Pac-12. No stranger to the Big 12.
To be fair, it was the Pac-12 back then.
Yeah, I'm still mourning the loss, but anyway, maybe. Now, I know that a lot of the ASU guys were waiting to see who the coach was. There's only one guy in the portal, or reportedly headed to the portal right now, and he was kind of a non-factor. And really, ASU can return the balance of their team. They only have, there were 3 players honored on senior day: point guard Mo Odom, Alan Mukeba, and then Pig Johnson, everybody's favorite player. So Pig played at an NIIA school, and so he's appealing for another year. So potentially, almost all the team could come back. And then another interesting side note here, that their big man, the freshman Masamba Diop, who I think everybody noted has great potential, 7'1", very lanky. He is represented by the same agency that represents Randy Bennett.
Oh.
So, yeah. So a lot of people were, pretty much Diop going elsewhere was a foregone conclusion because ASU can never afford to keep him. Maybe now he stays. So we'll see what happens with the players on the roster. So, I it wouldn't be surprising to see some of those players follow them over. I think their guards were their second and third leading scorers, and like I said, ASU loses a point guard, so that might be nice. But I also had one parent of a player, I won't say the name, a parent of a player that has been texting me, and basically he's a little bit. I don't know if it's the style of play that's kind of suited to my son, but we're kind of waiting to see, and we're going to give it a chance, and we'll hear out the new coach and go from there. So we'll see.
One football question for me, and that is, what are your expectations for the team this season?
I honestly think they're going to be better than people expect.
Yeah.
I think if you're to look at them, I think most people are going to peg them in the 5th to 6th maybe area, prediction. But I think Kenny Dillingham has shown he's a good coach. I don't think anybody can doubt that anymore. The receivers are ridiculous. I know they lose Jordan Tyson, but this Omarion Miller kid from Colorado is legit. The running backs look really good. So, I think ASU is one of those schools that's in their DNA that when expectations are lower, they do better. So I think this is one of those teams that people are going to be sleeping on. And especially because they don't return a whole lot of players. So I think this is kind of setting up for them nicely to maybe kind of surprise some people. I mean, we're only a few practices into spring practice. But, I think Kenny Dillingham, and I think he made most importantly, I think he made some coaching changes here that are going to really be a benefit. The punting game was atrocious last year, he brought in a specialist coach. So it's a former NFL punter. So in addition to having a special teams coordinator, now they have a specialist coach. I think that's going to help that facet of the game immensely. They brought in Demetrius Martin, who was at UCLA as a cornerbacks coach. They brought him in, and now their defensive coordinator Brian Ward was in charge of not only the defensive coordinating part of it, but he coached the safeties. So now he can just be the D coordinator. He doesn't have that position room to oversee. So I think they've made some good changes on their staff. So I think they're going to surprise some people.
Are those practices in the spring, are they open to media at any point?
We watch every minute.
How's the quarterback looking?
I think he looks decent. I mean, obviously he's still learning the offense, and we're talking Cutter Bo Lee. I don't think it's signed, sealed, and delivered it's going to be him because they have 4 quarterbacks. Obviously, if you were to look at on paper, he looks like he'd be the front runner. So it's kind of too early to tell because, again, he's working with new receivers on a new system. So he's looked okay, but it's too early to tell. So, not that we have anything going on this week because I'm also going to experience Airport Madness tomorrow. I'm going to the Sweet 16 to cover Arizona. So, we've had the coaching search, we've got spring football, we've got NCAA tournament. So there's no shortage of stuff going on right now.
How do you feel about Arizona's matchup getting Arkansas?
I think Arizona is so good it doesn't matter. Like, honestly, as somebody that covers ASU, it pains me to say it, But, I mean, they didn't even play that well and they won the last game. Now, can they play like that and beat the next opponent? I don't think they'll play like that the next game. I mean, they're just that much better. They've got so many weapons. People say they don't shoot enough threes. Well, they don't have to. If you can get high percentage points in the paint, why jack up shots from the perimeter when you don't have to? So I think they're fine. I think they're very good. I just – I thought Florida was this really pains me since I'm a Florida grad. I thought Florida had one of the few teams that could match up to them in the front court and match up to the size that they have. But now that they're gone, I mean, I think this is Arizona's tournament. I really do.
Is Todd Golden going to end up at North Carolina?
I hope not. I don't know. He's going to – sometimes you've got to judge your – time to move if you're going to move. I think he's got a pretty good thing going right there.
Yeah.
I think he should stay put, but who knows?
Yeah, I mean he's winning at a very high level. All right, Michelle Gardner from the Arizona Republic joining us here on Big 12 today. Thanks, Michelle, and safe travels. Better get there early.
I know. Trust me, I am not. Well, from what I've seen on the news the last 48 hours. The Phoenix airport doesn't seem to be as bad as others.
Good.
So let's hope it continues. And I've got clear and pre-check, so that'll help. But, I'm not looking forward to that end of it. But, hey, we got to make it work, right?
Yep. All right. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks, Michelle.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Michelle Gardner joining us here on Big 12 today on Big 12 Radio. She is the Arizona State beat writer for the Arizona Republic. Saw a note about Arkansas and how much they struggle against opponents that have really good front lines. Like Florida beat them 111-77. I'm like, how did that happen? There was a stretch in the season where Arkansas allowed 7 straight post players, the 4 or 5 man for the opponent, to score at least 20 points. And their 2 wins against top 15 opponents this season were both against Vanderbilt, who's very guard-oriented, plays a similar style. So Arizona's like Koa Pete and Mo Krivas should go off in this game.
Can I just say something really quickly that's political but does not lean either Democrat or Republican, and basically says that people who are, jacked up about one side or the other should recognize that politicians don't give an F about you at all or any people around you. So, like, if anybody gets worked up about Republican or Democrat, like, just realize that all those politicians involved don't care about you at all. And this TSA, what's going on with TSA is a perfect example of it. Number one, there's a large group of people that work in this country that are not getting paid right now because the government hasn't basically approved their payment because they've somehow stuck it onto a bill that has to do with immigration. How does that make any sense? I have no idea. Separate the bill, pay the TSA employees. They're messing with Americans' lives right now, and it is obnoxious, and it speaks to how much politicians don't give a bleep about any of us.
Yeah, It's bad. It's bad everywhere. These TSA lines are insane. All right, coming up next, Norm Roberts, the former head coach at St. John's, assistant at Kansas. We'll talk with Coach Norm Roberts about the NCAA tournament, where teams sit in the Big 12 after this timeout. This is Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio.
Arizona won it by 7. Just under a month ago, we are underway with a trophy on the line here tonight. And he'd love to add another one here in this game.
And Arizona would like to get Braden Burries going early.
He'll pick up an assist as Bradley knocks down a 3.
Really good.
13th in the AP poll in the week before the season began, as Pete lays it in, but they were in the top 5. Into Pete, who's had a terrific night. Left hand up and good.
Gave a look to the high-low, the dump down, and then pivoted. And especially the big guys stepping up in screening situations has been really effective for Arizona.
Some room for Sharp. A big shot for the Cougars. Fleming's on the bench right now. Miller out there in the backcourt with Uzan and Sharp. Tugler tries again and one.
Beautiful pocket pass.
10-0 run, Houston. Arizona's got foul trouble, and they've gone cold. Miller driving. Dumps it off. Laid in by Tugler. Shot clock at 7. Burries. He's going to have to put a shot up, and he banks it home. Back comes Flemings. Uzan. Hit it! And it's a 3-point game. That will do it. The regular season champs are the tournament champs here in Kansas City.
Back inside Big 12 today here on Big 12 Radio. We are brought to you by Modelo here on this Takeaway Tuesday. This is the Big 12 Conference. This is a different league. With Ari Timken, I'm James Westling, and we are joined now by the coach, Norm Roberts, coached at St. John's, longtime assistant at Kansas. And, Coach, you're a New York City native. You coached at St. John's. You coached at Kansas. Was it a little bit weird watching those two teams play with the stakes so high in the NCAA tournament?
It was. It was a little bit weird watching them and everything. You know, obviously I was for the Jayhawks and those things, but still have love for St. John's. They were always good to me there. And, you know, Zuby Ejiofor was a kid that I've known for years and recruited him. So it was tough to watch and that stuff. It was it wasn't a great game artistically, but it was a tough battle, which you knew it was going to be a war. And then it came down to the last possession, happens in most games in the NCAA tournament when two great teams are playing against each other.
Help me understand why you want to take fouls at the end of the game, so much so that you then get to a point where the team is in the bonus. Don't you want to save some of those so that you can be more physical and not allow a team to get into the bonus and shoot free throws in that situation?
I think you can say that. I think what happened in the game was maybe the timing of the fouls weren't probably what Coach wanted. Now, I also think being in that situation, that's really a tough scenario to practice, and to know exactly how you want to do it. You do practice fouling and foul them so they don't get a three-point shot off. You do all that stuff in practice. But to have that many fouls, I think they had maybe two to give or whatever. So having that many fouls, you kind of wanted to space out the timing. And I think probably where they got hurt was the first foul, which happened in like 2 seconds. And you kind of needed him to dribble the ball up the court. Don't let him get past half court, but let him dribble it up the court a couple of times, 4 or 5 times. Now foul him. Then the second foul would have been better because now when you foul them, now maybe they have like 2.1 seconds to go, so they can't get all the way to the basket. Now they have to shoot a jump shot, and that's easy to guard. But as a great defensive coach and a great defensive team, we always practice this. Hey, man, we got to get one stop. You got to be able to guard for 4 or 5 seconds. We got to get a stop in 4 or 5 seconds. So give St. John's credit, and Darling made an unbelievable play. He's left-handed, so you do want to make him go to his opposite hand. He made a great shot. He really did.
I also thought Zuby Ejiofor bringing Badunga out on the perimeter, coming way out, almost into the front court, was also key in that situation because there was no help. When you recruited Zuby, did you see this potential in him and, him turning into the player that he is?
Well, to say that he was going to be, Defensive Player of the Year and Big East Player of the Year, nobody could forecast that. Did I think Zuby was going to be a very good player? Yes. We thought in time he was going to be extremely talented, tough kid, always had an unbelievable motor. Give him credit. He has developed his skill level and made his skill level a lot better in those things. So you got to give him all the praise. He put in the work, the time, and the effort to do it. But we always thought Zuby was going to be really good.
I want to ask you about sort of big picture Big 12, other things, and not talk specifically about Kansas, but since you know Bill Self as well as you do, what's your take or thought on whether or not this is the last ride for Bill Self?
I do think, I think in this situation, and he does this every year, he gets back and he talks with his family and, assess the season and what is going on. And obviously with the health situation, he's got to assess that and see how he feels. And, Coach has done so much to me. Obviously, he's a Hall of Famer. He's been to, 4 Final Fours. He's won 2 of them. He's done 14 straight championships in the Big 12. And that's so he's done an enormous amount and everything. But he also has to feel good about what he's doing. He has to feel healthy about what he's doing. So I think it's going to take him some time. He's going to look at it, evaluate it. And he is right in what he said. He does. He loves what he does. He loves the coach. That's who he is. And, but he's just got to make sure everything's right and that he feels right, that it's, that he can continue on and keep on coaching because he's great at it.
Yeah, well said. Talking with Norm Roberts here on Big 12 today. Some of the other teams left in the tournament, Houston has been dominant, back-to-back 31-point wins against Idaho and then Texas A&M. They locked Texas A&M into a 65-possession game, which is unparamount when it comes to how A&M wants to play. Now they get the best offense in America with Illinois. How do you see that matchup, and where does Houston maybe have some advantages?
I think Houston, just their athleticism, their length, and their physicality. Now, I would tell you this, Illinois can match some of that because of the size of their guys. They're very, very big, too. So they've got 7-footers, 6'10s. So they have great size, but their size is more perimeter-oriented than inside. So it's going to come down, the way – if you don't play against Houston and you try to go up against them just in a 3-day prep or whatever, it's a different animal. That's a different animal. Because their pressure, their physicality, their ability to make you play further away from the basket, their ability to protect the rim and then force you into they do one of the best jobs in the country at contesting jump shots without foul. They contest hard, they come at you with a high hand, and they make it hard for you to make shots. So I think Illinois is going to have to be able to withstand that. They're going to have now. Illinois is also a great offensive rebounding team, probably the best offensive rebounding team Houston has played. So that's going to be a major factor in the game. Who controls the glass is going to be a major factor. And the other thing is, does Illinois not turn the ball over? Because Houston can force you into not only bad shots but turnovers.
Who from the Big 12 do you think has the best shot at getting to a Final Four, and do you think there will be more than one?
I think it could be more than one, without a doubt. I think Arizona probably has the best chance of getting there because of their size, and they're a complete team, and they can do so many things in depth, and they're healthy now, and all those things. So I think that gives Arizona a great chance. But I think Houston has as good of a chance to get there because of their defense, and the thing that they do is they don't turn it over. Houston makes sure they get a shot up pretty much every time because they score so much off the bounce and creating their own shot. The key for Iowa State is going to be, can they get Jefferson back? But even without Jefferson, that defense is ridiculous, and it's smothering, and it's physicality, and those things. I thought Virginia was going to win that game, and they'd be playing against Virginia. That didn't happen. Tennessee's going to be a tough out because they play just as physical defensively as Iowa State does. I'm hoping they can get Jefferson back. I haven't heard anything on that, but if they can get him back and be whole, they're going to need him because, Tennessee's going to pound the ball inside. They're going to pound it inside, but Iowa State does a great job of trapping from the bottom side, taking some things away. So I think all three teams have a chance. I think all three teams have a great chance.
Coach, when you look at Arizona, and Arkansas, Arkansas's got Darius Acuff Jr. He's been on an incredible heater, but they struggle defensively against front lines. The stat, I think they allowed like 20 or more points scored by a big man in 7 straight. They don't rebound it well. So how do you see that matchup, and does that play well into what Arizona wants to do?
It does play well into what Arizona wants to do. Arizona's going to play through Krivas and Koa Pete. They're going to get that ball. And Toby Awaka's been ridiculous. He's been so good for them because, he's gigantic. And he does an unbelievable job of rebounding the ball. And he's actually done a great job of improving his skill set. It used to be he was kind of a brute force guy in there that would rebound it but couldn't score. He now can score. He can score around the basket, and he can put up points. So I don't think that's advantageous for Arkansas. Arkansas needs to obviously play fast. They need to, they need Trevon Brazile to be terrific. They need him to be terrific for them. He's got to be a guy that can pull big guys away from the basket, shoot it, use his athleticism. And then they're going to need their other bigs to be able to protect the rim in some way. Ewing's going to have to be good because, Ewing's he's a good athlete, but he's not a great athlete. So he doesn't pose shot blocking as much. So I think it's going to be really key how they guard Krivas because Krivas is going to be in that paint, he causes a lot of trouble both offensively and defensively. Defensively, they're probably going to force Acuff into the lane and make them have to score over top of Krivas and Awaka and those guys, which is tough to do. It's not easy. And Acuff has been terrific. He is a guy that can go off and get 30. I do think they have, I'm going to say his name, Kovachenkov and Jaden Bradley. They're good defenders, man. They're really, really good defenders. So, and they're big and strong. So I don't think Acuff's really going against that. So that'll be an interesting battle.
What do you make of the lack of upsets? You know, there's so much being said about, death of parity in college basketball. And, you do have a 9-seed Iowa and an 11-seed Texas, but those aren't exactly mid-majors. What do you make of the state of college basketball when it comes to the mid-majors?
I think the mid-majors are still very good. I think they're still, it's the have and have-nots. Because what happens right now, and what's getting ready to happen next season too, is the top mid-major players in the country are all going to go in that portal, and they're going to go up to the high major level. They're gone. So now those coaches who have done an unbelievable job have to now bring in some younger guys or some guys that were role guys and develop them into their stars and get them to be their better players. So the mid-majors, it's very hard for them to keep a guy 3 and 4 years. They're not going to keep him. They're going to go because they can make more money at the next level. So they lose those guys. So the depth's not there. Sometimes the experience may not be there as well. So I think that's caused a problem, whereas all those guys are now up at the high major level, so it makes a disparity in talent.
How do you think that will impact coaches at the mid-major level?
I don't think it hurts them. I think the mid-major level is maybe, in my regard, maybe more fun to coach than the high major level. Because the high major level, it's about how much money you pay them. It's about the unbelievable expectations because money is being paid. So the word patience, development, that stuff is out the window at the high major level. That's gone. Nobody cares about that at all. Nobody wants to hear you say, oh, he's going to be good in time. No. He needs to be good right now. We need to win right now. They're making the money right now. All that stuff. Where at the mid-major level, you're still developing guys. You're still getting guys that are going to get better over time. The one thing is that you have to say to yourself as a mid-major coach, I'm not going to keep him. So when you recruit some of these guys that you think are borderline high major guys, you're recruiting them on the premise, hey, man, I can get you to the high major level. Just come with me for 2 years, help us win at a high level, and then I can help you move on so you can make more money or whatever at a high major school. So I think the development piece is still there at the mid-major level, which makes it a lot of fun to coach in that stuff. And you can use the recruiting in a different way. You almost use it as if, I hate to say this, but it's true, you almost use it as if you're a junior college. Mm-hmm. Hey, come with me for 2 years. We'll get you bigger, stronger, faster, develop your skill set, and then we'll let you go on to the Power 5 or conferences, and you can make more money, but help us win at this level right now.
Yep. I've heard so many mid-majors coaches tell me that exact thing right there, that it's a feeder system. They recruit off that premise that we can get you to the next step and get you that payday. Really good stuff. Coach Norm Roberts joining us here on Big 12 today. Thanks, Norm. We appreciate your time.
Thanks, guys. Have a great day.
Okay.
You too, bud. Thank you.
Soon. Norm Roberts, the coach, joining us here on Big 12 today on Big 12 Radio. Coached at St. John's, was a longtime assistant at Kansas. He's with us each and every week here on Big 12 Radio. We'll wrap up the show coming up next on Big 12 today on Big 12 Radio. Big Stretch, exclusively on TuneIn.
In Kansas City is underway. West Virginia basketball. Two teams looking for the first points in this game. Provided by Jordan Harrison. Cook trying to get around Miles. Good feed to McCray. Rolls it in for two. Miles. Defended by Woodley. Miles down the lane. Count it, and one. Harrison for two. Jordan Harrison, as Christy talked about right at the top of the telecast.
She usually will take her defender off the bounce and back them down. But right now, maybe this is going to be two for them. There you go.
Great feed by Miles as she finds Parker. Harrison. Count it. It's a 3. Mountaineers dodge one there. TCU had multiple opportunities.
And right now, with this 9-point lead, West Virginia does not need to be in a hurry. They do not even need to look to shoot the shot until about 5 seconds to go.
Inside of 2 minutes to go, Wheeler on the drive. Big B, good shooter. Can't get it. Rebound, Makaluski.
TCU's got a foul.
They don't get anybody. Here's Shaw all alone for the layup. Cue Country Roads. For the first time in 9 years, West Virginia, Big 12 tournament champions.
Big 12 today here on Big 12 Radio, brought to you by Modelo. He's Ari Timken. I'm James Westling. Anthony Smith behind the scenes on the video side. We've got T-Chains producing on the audio side. Great work as always. You know what we didn't talk about today?
A lot of things.
Okay, like what?
I mean, we did talk about TSA lines, so that's one thing we talked about.
We did do that.
Yeah. There's a lot of things we haven't talked about.
Okay, we didn't talk about Kyle Whittingham.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we didn't talk about that, and we probably should, because I think it was pretty clear this wasn't a clean goodbye, but maybe I didn't realize the extent of just how messy the breakup was between Kyle Whittingham and Utah. And we had, on good authority, a source from one of the Utah papers that joined us on the show who told us, hey, Whittingham wanted to come back one more year. He has a clause in his contract where he has to notify Utah by X date if he wants to come back. And he did that. December 2nd, his agent tells Utah he wants to stay and coach. But what we didn't know is that Utah countered with a one-year deal, but essentially demoting him, giving Morgan Scalley final say on recruiting, roster, and staffing, so Whittingham could stay on under that caveat that you're really just the coach, appearances only.
Yeah, Utah released a treasure trove of documents to satisfy a public records request, and so you can see the dual culpability here for both sides. It's clear that Kyle Whittingham did not want to retire. It's clear that Utah wanted him to retire. To your point, basically, by the date that he was supposed to let Utah know whether he was going to stay or go, his agent reached out and said, here's what we think about is fair for a contract moving forward. And it was for an increase of $1.6 million. Instead, they just did the $0.6 million and said, you've got no authority anymore. This is what we're willing to accept. Instead of the $9 million you've asked for, and then 9.6 after that, we'll give you 8 and basically allow Morgan Scalley all hiring and firing decisions, the GM responsibilities, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so what he did was he took his $13.5 million separation agreement, and then 2 weeks later was announced as the head coach of Michigan. Now, the $13.5 million, it's important to note, was what he would have been owed in a buyout situation. So this is not a have your cake and eat it too, although it looks like that because he's getting $8.5 million from Michigan and $13.5 million from Utah to not coach. But they would have owed him that anyways because that's the buyout money for the rest of what was owed to him on his contract. I think the big issue here is the big FU that Whittingham gave Utah at the door, where he takes 6 position assistants, the strength coach, as well as 5 players, including a 4-star signing that had committed to Utah. That's where Mark Harlan, I think, in Utah fought back on, hey, this separation agreement stipulates that you're not doing this. And basically his agent said, F that, it doesn't.
Right.
Also, one of the coaches that he hired is his son, so that makes sense, right? He's not going to stay at Utah. But for Utah fans, I can't imagine how you're supposed to feel about this because I think you can kind of see, again, the culpability of both sides here. It certainly makes Kyle Whittingham look bad, and if you're a Utah fan, you probably don't like Whittingham anymore because he's taken a bunch of money from you. He's taken players. He's taken coaches. He's left the cupboard bare in a situation that was supposed to go the exact opposite. But can you blame Whittingham?
No. Like, I don't understand that. The guy wanted to coach at your school one more year, and you said no. And the audacity for him to take another job elsewhere. And, of course, he's going to bring the guys that he knows and he trusts the most with him to have success at Michigan.
And he's not taking, a job in Illinois or at Virginia, right?
Utah State.
Right. I mean, not even, even if it's a Power 5, this is one of the best jobs in America. It's Michigan. They have the most wins in the history of the sport. So, totally understand the vantage point of Kyle Whittingham. And, he's the winner here, right? He makes a bold leap, goes to Michigan, gets an incredible job. And then, he knew all along he was going to have this $13.5 million advisory role, even if he didn't get the Michigan job. Meanwhile, Utah is in a way more precarious position. They put all their eggs in the Morgan Scalley basket. While I think he's going to be good, if he does struggle, you basically kicked out a coach that just went 10-2 and got hired by Michigan. So there'd be a lot of egg on the face of Mark Harlan in Utah if Morgan Scalley doesn't work out. But I think for right now, this has worked out for all sides. I get that Utah has some hard feelings for what Kyle Whittingham did, but to your point, you told him, you can coach, just not here.
Right. And, Kyle Whittingham is Utah football.
Yeah.
Okay, we can revisit that 20 years from now, but the guy, Urban Meyer, spent a year and a half, 2 years at Utah. Before that, it was Ron McBride, who was going 8-4, and then 4-7, and then 6-5, and then 7-4. Kyle Whittingham put Utah football on the map in a big way. He had consecutive double-digit win seasons when they were in the Mountain West that propelled them to the Pac-12, and then he wins in the Pac-12. He goes to, 3 Rose Bowls before they joined the Big 12 Conference, double-digit win totals in just year 2 in the Big 12, and you essentially tell him, sure, you can be the coach, but you're not really the coach because this guy who's your top assistant is actually going to have full control over everything that you do. And then the Utah athletic director, Mark Harlan, writes him in an email, I'm disappointed by your actions. Just this back-and-forth pettiness between the two. And to me, I have it really from the emails. Whittingham's not speaking to Utah directly. He's letting his agent handle all of that. But the bottom line is Whittingham wanted to coach, and you told him no.
Yeah.
It's wild, man, though. How should Utah fans feel about this situation? Because you get the guy that you knew you were going to have and that you wanted, but under very different circumstances now, with a gutted staff and a roster that doesn't have a whole lot coming back when it comes to the major players that went to Michigan.
This is why I hate the head coach and waiting thing, because it just creates this weird dynamic where you know that there's a expiration date, and it feels like, I'm sure in the case of Utah, like he was starting to entertain the possibility of taking other jobs. I also think, though, if you're Utah, okay, let him go take another job. Whittingham's on for 2 more years, and then you rehire Morgan Scalley.
Exactly. Bring him back if he has success.
They just tried to they've tried to overmanage the entire situation. I'm just never been a fan of the head coach in waiting. It feels like it never works out. In multiple cases, I think about Will Muschamp being named the head coach of Whittingham, Texas. He goes and takes another job, and then he fails at that. Then he takes another job. If a guy's that good as a coach, but hasn't proven it yet at that level as being a head coach, let him go prove it. Utah's not exactly a job where you should be able to learn on the job.
Right.
So I'm opposed to the idea of a head coach in waiting. Either the guy you've got needs to be fired, needs to move on, or you got to stick with him. In the case of Kyle Whittingham, you give me 2 more years of Whittingham or the unknown of Scalley, I'm taking 2 more years of Whittingham every time.
All right, what if the head coach in waiting is the son of the head coach?
Yeah,
Kellen Sampson.
Yeah, that happens a lot too. We had Bobby Knight's son take over Pat for him at Texas Tech. We've had
Stephen
Pearl now take over for Bruce Pearl. Look, in the case of Tech and Auburn and now Houston, you've got figureheads and coaches that have lifted your program up to unprecedented heights. You think about Texas Tech basketball before Bobby Knight got there. I know it's really good now, and it's been to a national championship. Bobby Knight was a godsend. So you get the idea of, okay, you could pass it down now to your head assistant, which is also your son. I think it's extremely complicated. I think Kellen Sampson's going to be a good head coach.
I do too.
And when I watch Houston, there are stretches where Kellen Sampson is coaching the team.
Right.
Kelvin is sitting down, and Kellen is up coaching. That's empowering your assistants, right? That's preparing him for that moment. So, I'm not a fan of monarchies in general. That's what it feels like it is. I do think Kellen Sampson would be a very good head coach.
This situation feels different to me because Kellen Sampson is a little bit older than Stephen Pearl. He's been on staff. And like I said, he's basically running the team practices. To your point, he's coaching in games. He feels more engaged than a Stephen Pearl or some of these other guys.
Yeah, and we're closer to it because we know Kelvin and Kellen a little bit.
Right.
I guess part of Kelvin's ideology is, I want to coach as long as I can, but this is a family atmosphere. My family's been very involved. Obviously, Kelvin's wife, Kellen's mom is very involved. Lauren, the daughter, is very involved, right? So I think part of the allure for Houston is, Kelvin's older, but as soon as he gives it up, Kellen's going to be an extension of what his dad was, especially from a familial aspect.
Like Kelvin's going to be at every game. He's going to be at he's still going to be very involved.
I'd say this. I disagree with that monarchy approach for 9 out of 10 of them, but this is one of those 1 out of 10.
Completely agree. I'm with you.
Maybe I'm just skewed for my love of Kelvin Sampson.
Here's what Bruce Pearl said about Kelvin Sampson's future at Houston.
Houston is built on culture. They're built on defense. This is what these guys absolutely expect to do. They expect to advance. Kelvin Sampson is approaching the end of his career. The question is going to be, is there going to take a national championship for him to say, I'm done? He's getting close.
What do you think the answer is to that question?
I think the answer is if he can get to the Final Four again, all right, that'll be making history. And I think he's going to turn it over to his son at some point.
At some point. So is he saying if he makes the Final Four, I don't know that is going to be the case. If it's a national championship, then yeah, I think Kelvin probably steps away. But I don't know that just making it to the Final Four, like you're so close.
Well, and I think, hearing Bruce Pearl talk about it, right, it's one thing for a media member to say it, it's another thing for a coach to live it and say it.
Right.
You never know what motivations are. I mean, it's obvious that Kelvin, it's the one thing he hasn't done in his career. I think he's the best coach in the sport, and it's the one thing he hasn't done in the sport to justify that. I don't know. It's a great question. He's still, the thing is, Bill Self has slipped. Bill Self's teams aren't as good. His offense is not as good. They're 60th in Ken Palm offense. They were 57th last year. They're 54th the year before that. They haven't been as good. They're not as good. He's not as good at recruiting. He's not as good at coaching offensive basketball. I think that's obvious. Kelvin Sampson is still as good as he's ever been.
Maybe his best 2 teams anywhere
He's not
in the
slipping.
last 2 years.
He's recruiting at a high level. He's getting guys to stay. I mean, so, the part of me that wants Bill Self to move along looks at the recent history and says, is this going to change? We thought maybe this year would be different because, he had a core group of guys that had been around for a long time that were finally moving on, that you thought maybe that gave them a ceiling of their offensive firepower. A totally new roster this year, and the results are awfully similar from an offensive perspective. Kelvin Sampson's shown no signs of slowing down.
Right.
Bill Self has.
I think that's clear. Yeah, that's well said. But Houston could potentially win a national championship this year, and then we'll see what the future might hold. All right, the 16 March Madness games that were broadcast across all the TV networks. Day 1 of the NCAA tournament averaged 9.8 million viewers, a new all-time NCAA tournament record. It's up 6% from last year's opening day. So mid-majors, Cinderellas or not, people are locked in to the NCAA tournament. And speaking of, we'll continue to look at these Big 12 teams that are left, their paths to the Final Four as we enter the Sweet 16 round coming up later this week. That's going to put a wrap on today's show. Special thanks to the coach, Norm Roberts. He joined us. Anthony Christensen was our guest from the Arkansas Athletic for WholeHogSports.com to get the opponent angle. We'll continue with that tomorrow with Illinois. And then we had Michelle Gardner, the Arizona State beat writer, to discuss their new hire in Randy Bennett. She writes for the Arizona Republic. And in hour number 1, Scott Springer from the Cincinnati Enquirer was on the program. For Anthony Smith, behind the scenes on the video side for T-Chains, Taman Turner on the audio side, he's Ari Timken. I'm James Westling. We're back tomorrow, 8 a.m. Eastern Time sharp on the nose here on Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio. But for now, we're out.
Peace.